greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Welcome to the Remake Literary License Podcast episode with Keith Shago and co-hosts Vicky Ray and Steve Templeman, discussing the original film and the remake, looking at what was improved upon, where they went wrong, and whether anything lives up to the original. Don't forget to have your say by commenting or sharing links, or just follow us below. Now on with the show.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Hate is bad. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it.
Life.
See, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hello, welcome to the Literary License Podcast and our Remake episodes. And we'll be covering The Shining from 1980 and the 1995 miniseries called The Shining, written by Stephen King. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Matthew Brockmeyer with us. Hello, Matthew.
Hello. Please.
And we got Joe Rendazzo. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone. How are you?
And Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hello, everybody.
And my name's Keith Shago. Before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to since last time we spoke to you. And I think most of these people we actually saw just last week. So starting with you, Matthew. What have you done for the past week?
Saw the Batman. That was pretty fun.
Was it good?
Well, it's very film noir. It's not your typical super. To be upfront and honest, I'm not
bring a kid?
Guy.
Can you bring?
I brought my 16-year-old.
I got a 9-year-old.
Hey, could you bring a kid? Yeah, I think so. It might be a little boring. It's kind of
really. I heard it's just really. I heard it's not like Batman.
It's not an action movie. That's the thing.
Right.
So yeah, like if you bring a younger kid, I was actually telling a friend that I'm like, you try to bring your kid to this, they might be bored because it's not like
point taken. I'll go watch it alone.
Fights every 5 minutes. There's a lot of they focus a lot on the detective work and stuff like that. I love it, but it's very dark.
Very
it's like
dark.
Really younger.
I expect them to bust out the magnifying glass, or the Sherlock Holmes.
Was it really a murder mystery?
It is. It's a murder mystery.
Oh, it is. Okay. See, I did not notice that.
That's how Batman started. Batman started as Batman the Detective Comics.
That's how DC got its name. Yeah, Detective Comics, the world's greatest.
Really, I did not know that. See, I learned something new every day with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a detective story, kind of a political thriller in a way too, because it's dealing with the mayoral election. So yeah, there's this is the kind of thing it might bore your kids,
But you guys liked it though.
Yeah, I'm not a superhero person at all in any way either. I like the Avengers. I could care less. I don't.
I was until I realized until I left Avengers Endgame, and I realized that Marvel just made me pay for the same fucking movie again. And I was like, okay, I'm done with these. That's the last one I saw in the theater.
I loved Endgame, though. God, I love that movie.
It was exactly the same movie as the one right before it, though. Literally exactly the same, except the end fight ends in a different way. That's really all.
That's true. I never really thought of that.
But yeah, this one might be like if you bring your kids, they might be a little bored by it.
I want to go see Jackass. See, his mom lets him watch Jackass once in a while, but I was wondering about this one.
I saw the new Jackass.
Did you see the new one?
Yep.
There's no turd volcanoes and stuff, are there?
Oh, dude, there's full male frontal nudity as soon as it begins. Steve-O is sitting there naked, and they put a queen bee on the end of his dick, and the whole beehive just swarms his crotch. and he's like swinging his dick, and it's just filled with bees. I mean, that's the opening. That's like the very first.
Oh my God,
shot.
I've got to go see it. I love Jackass. I'm just one of those weird women, I guess.
They're old.
They're our age. I think they're even older than us.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Any books going on before we move on to Joe?
I mean, I'll go watch the Batman. I am a Batman. I'm not a superhero person, but I am a Batman fan for some reason. I quite like the dark.
I love the different universes. Me and Asher are watching Loki last night. I'm hooked. I love it.
But I even like the Batman villains as well because there's more of a storyline behind them. You know, Poison Ivy and environmental.
I love that stuff.
There was no kind of, you know how like a lot of them will have like a really over the top, or even like with Poison Ivy, a supernatural kind of thing. There was none of that. Like the Penguin is just like a straight up gangster. He didn't even look like a penguin.
Well, he was supposed to be a straight up gangster, weren't they? Originally.
Well, he was. I mean, in the animated series, Penguin is a gangster.
I got to start watching the animated series.
And the Riddler is basically Jigsaw.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh God,
he's
really?
a nerd, isn't he? Riddler? He's just some kind of nerd.
This one's very dark. It's PG-13, but it's more geared towards adults than kids. So, yeah, that's go into it with the right mindset. Don't go into it expecting fights every 10 minutes. And the fights are brutal. Like I remember the first two fights. I don't remember there being a score at all. So it's just like you just hear like bone crunching. It's a pretty brutal little movie. 3 hours is a little movie. It's a pretty brutal movie.
Long one.
He's like riding around listening to Nirvana with his hair in his eyes.
Is he?
Yeah, it's so funny. He's always. I felt like my mom or something. I'm like, get your hair in your eyes. Get your hair out of your eyes.
Isn't that terrible how we turn into our parents? We really do.
He looked exactly like Trent Reznor. It's funny.
He did. I didn't even notice that.
Huh?
Does Robert Pattinson, do you think he does a good job then?
I liked him.
Yeah, so did I.
I heard a lot of good things about him in the role. I haven't even seen the trailer yet. I'll probably do that.
I mean, I was telling somebody at work that asked how it was. I was like, if the Batman that we're used to growing up in the 80s and 90s and stuff was the Batman that lost his parents and is traumatized from that. This is a Batman who in his youth experienced 9/11 and the financial meltdown of the late 2000s.
Do they mention that?
They don't mention it, but
you can tell it's more contemporary.
This generation's Batman, which is not only did he have the trauma of losing his parents, he had the trauma of all this stuff, like everything that somebody around my age would have, because the financial systems kind of collapsed in late 2008 as I'm like in my mid 20s, and 9/11 happened when I was in my early 20s. So it's somebody from my generation who's like, oh shit, the world sucks.
Yeah,
because my entire adult life, the world has sucked. And that's the Batman we're getting for this. So he actually fits.
Well, it's kind of placed.
I grew up in the 70s. It wasn't any better then, let me tell you.
No, 70s, I remember gas lines and.
Yep.
Every other day. I remember odd and even days for gas. I remember. You had an odd or even day you could get gas.
Bruce Wayne's main character arc in this new film is learning of his own privilege. The Catwoman comes to him and she's like, look at all these, because you see the district attorney and he's like this white guy and he's like doing these weird new drugs in a strip club. And she's like, all these guys have white privilege and that's how they got all their jobs. And then when he finally talks to the Riddler's like, I was an orphan and I was a real orphan. I was in an orphanage. I was beaten. I had to fight. I was hungry. He's like, you think you were an orphan? You think that you were traumatized? You don't know what it's like. You're in a mansion with a butler.
Yeah, true.
So and he's like realizing his privilege and Pattinson does a great job of that. He's got that emo.
He is kind of emo, isn't he?
Oh, it's a really emo film and
really.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely woke. Quote unquote, whatever.
We need to watch before we drift into spoilers on this too.
Yeah, you guys are probably going to ruin it for me. So.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I kind of like to know though. That makes me
fun.
more interested in seeing it. So
I mean, it's definitely got it's definitely more of a mystery. It's unraveling by the minute. Like it's 2 hours and 53 minutes or something like that.
That's a
Go to
long
the bathroom before you go into the theater because you're not going to be able to really leave because they're
if you
really
miss something.
Yeah, you there's a potential to miss something. So there's that.
Shadows. Miss something, you're screwed.
That's why I never joined your Dark Shadows podcast because by the time I joined, I saw some episodes as a kid, but I'm like, I would have to like watch like the entire thing up to where you guys are.
We're up to like episode 900 and something. I think we're getting to thousands.
Yeah, like I'm never going to be able to join the Dark Shadows podcast at this point. If you cover the movies, maybe because I can watch those in a weekend. But yeah,
I love the movies.
I'm like 1,000 episodes behind you guys on the show.
Well, we'll hit like episode 1200 by the end of the season. So.
How many were just a ghost story? The very beginning is just ghosts, right?
No, they were going to cancel it because it was boring, and then they got a ghost, and that made everything interesting. So they caught on, because they got that. Was it Josette was the ghost? The beginning.
Josette was the ghost.
Josette, yeah.
And then it blew up when Jonathan Frid joined.
Right.
He came in around episode 208, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
and that's where it really blew up is when you get Barnabas. Yeah.
And what about yourself, Joe? What have you been up to?
Work is busy again. Like this last week, I worked I worked all day on Sunday, then got up on Monday, threw in The Shining, then watched the '97 Shining, then watched The Phantom Carriage, then watched Dr. Sleep.
I still got to finish The Phantom Carriage. Thank you for turning me on to that. What a beautiful piece of cinematography. That is excellent. Even I love that silent shit now. I mean, I have such a big appreciation for it because everything is such shit out of 2021, especially. And when you turn on that, and you see 1921. It's like, let the Mormon Tabernacle Choir sing. It's just beautiful.
So yeah, basically, I just spent the last week at work and the Overlook Hotel away.
And you were right about the X thing.
Oh yeah. So yeah, basically, I've been watching these movies on my days off and then working. So next week I'll have more of a life until the NCAA tournament starts, and I'm at work all day for like every day.
Oh God, is that coming up?
That's next week.
Wow.
And what about yourself, Vix? What have you been up to?
Not a lot. Asher's on. They get like 2 weeks off for spring break now. Do you guys ever remember getting 2 weeks off for spring break? Man, how do they rate?
Like a week and a half, I think I used to get.
No, not me. We got a week. And that was it when I was in college. Well, maybe 2 weeks in college. But I've been finding, I don't know if it's because of what's going on in the world, but I've been finding a lot of Nazi dead movies lately. What did I watch? I watched Nazi Undead. It was a ghost Nazi. There's nothing worse than Nazi zombies or Nazi ghosts because they're Nazis and they're evil. And no matter what, they're going to be evil, whether they're ghosts or goblins or zombies. But this one was really, really kind of disturbing. And then I found this old Bela Lugosi documentary. It was 99 cents on Amazon Prime. So I go, okay, I can handle 99 cents. And it was just really interesting. I didn't know a lot about Bela Lugosi. Sort of like that other one you told me about with, was it not Vincent Price? Was it Vincent Price? No, it was Boris Karloff.
The Boris Karloff one on Shudder.
That was so fast. I mean, I learned so much. And then I want to watch the older movies because once you see what these guys went through, and all the sacrifice. And I mean, things weren't easy back then for people at all. I mean, I know it's hard now, but I mean, these people really stuck with it. I mean, they had a mission. They really did. And I was going to watch Dr. Sleep later today because after watching all of this Shining stuff, I need to watch Dr. Sleep. But we're not doing much today because it's cold. So we're just going to hang and do the TV thing. He'll probably play Roblox. The world was over because Roblox blew up the other night ago, I guess. Somebody infiltrated it and it all shut down and my phone was going off because my grandson uses my email. It's like Roblox has been shut down. But that was just a travesty for a 9-year-old.
Do you remember what Bela Lugosi documentary you watched? Because I'm wondering if it's one of the ones I've seen.
It's 99 cents. I know that. I can find it while you guys are talking about how fantastic Keith's life is compared to my boring, pitiful, existence.
Keith does have something on.
I'm actually on holiday this week. I'm on holiday next week. because I get 60 holiday days a year for my job, and because I haven't been able to take any of them, I had to they're forcing me to take a bunch of them because it all recoups in April.
If you lose it, you don't use it, you lose it.
Just to let you know, I've been at my job for 30 years now, so I've been there for a while. So
he blackmails people. That's what he does.
But anyway, so I've been off there, but I finished off all the editing, got all that out this week. But I've watched the Andy Warhol Diaries on Netflix, which is fantastic. I highly recommend that documentary series.
Really?
When did it come out?
It's quite good because every time you hear Andy Warhol, you kind of get the factory years, and this is after he was shot, and then he kept the diary after he was shot. So this is all very interesting, and it's it is produced by Ryan Murphy, so there's some politics in there. You're kind of going sort of thing, but looking at that time through a now lens sometimes is not the best way to look at things. Sometimes, things were different then. I'm not saying that they need to be excused, but I don't think you need to make everything. The reason why this happened is because they weren't like us now. It was kind of a little bit of that was thrown in there, but that's Ryan Murphy. He does that with a lot of his stuff anyway. I watched a new series that's on called The Shining Veil, which is a haunted house TV series starring Courtney Cox, Greg Kinnear, and Mira Sorvino. That was really good. And what's her name's in it as well? Sherilyn Fenn's in
What was that called again?
I did not know about any of this.
The Shining Veil.
The Shining Veil. I got that. It's on my list. I haven't found it yet. Was it on Netflix?
It's on. I found mine's on Amazon in this country.
Amazon. Okay. No wonder I couldn't find it.
So I started watching that. That was good. I watched 2 episodes of that. Really enjoyed that. And I've also started watching old black and white classics and stuff like that.
So have I. I really like them a lot.
I've been stuck in the 1930s for
It's a good place to be stuck. I love I love the movies. It's such a it's refreshing. It really is.
What had done it for me is I joined. I downloaded the app Letterboxd and I clicked all the movies that I've watched, and then when it has a graph that shows like all the movies you've watched, and it's like 1890s. It's very tiny, but then again, not many of those movies survive. But like in the 80s and 90s, almost every year I've watched over 100 movies from every year, and then I looked at the 1930s. I'm like, I really haven't watched a lot from the 1930s. 1920s, of course, sometimes you can't get them because a lot of them are lost. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start going down the list. And, because all I'd seen is like the major horror movies and the major gangster movies and like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz and like the really big ones. So I was like, okay, who do I like? I like Karloff. So I started going down Karloff. I like Cagney. I started going down Cagney, and I've been kind of stuck in the 1930s.
I can't find that Criminal Code movie anywhere.
It's on Amazon.
Is it on Amazon?
It's on my Amazon Prime here.
I think it's on YouTube.
This is going to drive me nuts. I know I rented this movie.
It's very good.
I was watching Penny Serenade before I came on here. With Cary
Carnival of Blood. I watched that too.
Penny Serenade really actually like made me cry when I saw it. It was like 20 or so years ago when I was really getting into Cary Grant. But
I love Cary Grant.
But that movie was a real tearjerker from what I remember. That's one I got to revisit. Now as an adult.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it made me teary-eyed and stuff like that, so it was really good.
I was going to watch Curse of the Black Widow, but I couldn't get past the picture of the woman's face on the spider.
That's Dan Curtis movie? Is that the Dan Curtis TV movie?
I don't know.
Dan Curtis, but I think there's
Dan Curtis. Yeah, it's a Dan Curtis.
There you go. You like Dark Shadows? Go for it.
Yeah.
I know. It was just it's the poster of the face on the spider. That's just what killing me. It's like, do I want to watch this? Asher might like it. He thinks we're stupid, though.
And I'm quite excited because
my old stuff
behind the Titans is coming out with Batgirl, which is going to trace the career of Barbara Gordon from Batgirl to the Oracle. It's coming out from the team that does Titans and Doom Patrol. So that could be quite good, actually. I love Titans. I really enjoyed Titans a lot, so I'm a huge fan of that. I'm like Matthew, I'm not a superhero fan. I really don't like Marvel comic stuff at all. I can't get into it.
Marvel?
And, I can't get
love
into
the
I can't get into
universes.
Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars fan either. I'm not a Star Trek fan.
I kind of moved away from Star Wars through the years.
Though every once in a while, you know, there are things that pop out like Mandalorian. I love that. So
I love the Mandalorian. I still haven't finished Boba Fett yet.
yeah, so I haven't even started it yet. So, and then I've been watching Pam and Tommy on Disney.
That looks good. That looks good. I haven't started it yet. Is it worth it?
I read Tommyland like years ago, so okay.
Yeah, is it worth it? I mean, is it as stupid as it looks?
I would never suggest that Disney, in all my years of being alive, would have a show that has a talking penis as one of its main characters. You know?
Yeah, that's. I had heard about that, and somebody at work came to me like, "I know you like Motley Crue. Have you seen Pam and Tommy yet?" I'm like, "I haven't seen it. I'm going to wait until it runs its course, and I'll like watch like 2 episodes a day and like go through it in like a week or so." And she's like, "There's a talking penis." I'm like, "Oh my god, is it based on Tommy Lee's book?" She's like, "It's based on a book called Tommyland." I'm like, "Yeah, Tommy Lee's fucking book where there's a chapter where he talks to his penis and his penis talks back to him, and I guess they adapted that into the show."
They did. I could just see him talking to his dick too.
I have to sit there and say the actors playing Pamela Sue and the one who's playing, they've done a really good job. I mean,
she looks just like her. From what I can.
Well, she's got prosthetics on, like the prosthetic breast and the prosthetic. She put prosthetics on her face to make herself look more like that.
She's pretty though. She's a real pretty girl.
Yeah, but they've done a good job. I mean, it's enjoyable. You just sit there and go. I mean, I said before, it's like, you know, I was watching it, and you know.
I remember when that video came out.
Sign on, and then you get that, and you're like, okay, this is kind of bizarre.
That was such a big deal when that sex video came out. Anybody was trying to get their hands on it.
Yeah, but it also started making people famous. Isn't that how Kim Kardashian became famous?
Yes.
Who did?
Paris Hilton. Sex tape.
Paris Hilton. Well, she don't care. Paris will do anything.
Paris Hilton's the best one.
Saying that's how we got to know who she was, through the sex tape. Kim Kardashian, the world didn't know who she was until.
That's true. Well, everybody knew her dad because of OJ, but
so basically, they took that Pam and Tommy thing, and basically, these reality programmers ran with it, didn't they? Would make themselves get a career out of it.
Well, seems legit.
I think Tommy Lee's played by I think he's played by Sebastian Stan, right? From
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
He's the Winter Soldier in the Marvel movies.
Oh, no shit.
I think he's Tommy Lee.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, it's fun, you know. And then I've started watching this is quite good as well. There's a show based on the Tiger King. It's a dramatization of it. It's a miniseries, and the one who plays the Timing King, the Tiger King, is John Cameron Mitchell, who we know from Hedwig. He plays Hedwig, and he also directed Short Bus. So
I just can't get into the Tiger King. I just can't. And they live 2 hours away from. I just cannot get it. My daughter liked it. I just can't watch it. I cannot do that to my life. It's already.
What's more interesting?
McKinnon plays Carol, right?
The second season of it, and the subsidiary one about the other guy who owns it. That's really good because he was doctored by a guru who was known for like having sex with his cult members, and he's kind of adapted that, and he's still going with it, sort of thing. He has like all these wives and stuff like that living with him, and that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just glad when I saw the Tiger King because I was in Oklahoma, and I was, you know, and I used to frequent quite the same places he did. I'm so glad I never ran into him because I was like,
there's a couple of the guys who've been frequenting.
People I knew. It's like, oh no.
One of them frequents the bar restaurants and stuff in Dallas. My daughter goes into. I guess some of them are real douches.
Chicago, I was going to the bars that Jeffrey Dahmer was going into, picking up his victims.
Jeez, Keith.
Like that in Chicago.
Could have been an appetizer.
I doubt it. I would have been like 20, 21 at that time. I mean,
Are you too young?
I was too old for him.
Too old?
I wasn't too old for him.
I know. I couldn't tell you anything about math, but I could tell you a lot about serial killers. Isn't that crazy?
Jeffrey liked the teenies. He liked the teeny boppers. Jeffrey liked the teeny boppers.
The teeny boppers.
and they had to be. And they tend to be Asian as well. You like young.
Can you
Asian
imagine being the first cop on that crime scene? It's like, what in the ever living fuck is going on in here? Oh, God.
So let's face it. How does a serial killer ever get caught? It all starts with the smell.
Yep. John Wayne Gacy wasn't people getting complaining about his house.
This quiet, really nice, pleasant neighbor house.
House stinks.
But yeah, I can't remember the name of the Tiger King not documentary, but the dramatization show. But it's fun. They take the piss out of it, and they really captured the unique characters that are found in the documentary, and the actors who are playing them are quite funny. So
I think it's called like Carol and Joe or something like that.
That's it, Carol and Joe. That's it. So I actually recommend that. It makes me laugh. So I was laughing all the way through it. So, and I always kind of wondered about Carol anyway. I mean, she's like talking about, oh, they're keeping these people in safari parks, blah, blah, blah. But then she's taking their tigers and putting them into her own safari park. So you're kind of going, she's got Peach on her side. So
there's people that we got lots of like exotic animal farms. I mean, I lived down the road from one. You could hear the lions roaring in the morning. And my kids were little back then. And every once in a while you come home and the tree would have big scratches on it. This is in the country. That would make me so nervous. I wonder if they ever closed animals. Those people had no right to have those animals. They just didn't.
Remember in San Francisco on Christmas, those kids were throwing beer bottles at the tigers, and the tigers just jumped out of the cage and killed them, ate them?
No, I never heard about this.
What happened?
Man. Yeah.
They came out of the cages and ate the kids?
Yeah, in San Francisco. It was about 5 years ago, I guess.
Oh, I think I might have heard something about that.
It was pretty
I
wild.
don't remember any of this.
It's like they're cats, you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
They're gonna eat you.
But not only that, like if they're not in like they put like a moat and a big wall and this and that, and they're like, it's a cat, dude. Get out. You know what I mean?
Did you ever watch that documentary about
the
the guy that was with the grizzly bears, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared?
The
grizzly bears ate him. Jeez.
Yeah, Werner Herzog made that documentary.
Yeah. The bear, yeah.
As I look into the bear's cold eyes, I do not see love or affection, only hunger and darkness.
Well, they're doing that thing at SeaWorld. Remember the SeaWorld one as well?
Oh, my friend was friends with that guy who got eaten by because he broke into the SeaWorld and he would eat out of the dumpster and sleep during the day, and at night he had all this acid and he would like swim with the dolphins and shit. He was like this ex-Hare Krishna guy. And yeah, man, he went and swam with the killer whale, and the thing ate his ass, man.
Did it really? Why did I miss this one?
It's the crazy thing is like I know I'm friends with a friend of that guy. I heard the whole story before that documentary even came out.
Now I've got to look for this shit. You guys know that, right?
I mean, that's what happens. I mean, to be honest, I mean, you know, you can't tame wildness anyway, so.
No,
I don't like zoos. I think it's sad when they're.
I think it's sad. I don't like going to zoos.
Yeah. I don't think it's right.
I don't like
trying to get a bear.
Either. I won't take him. I won't take Ash.
Circuses don't have animals in this country. They don't. There's no animals in circuses.
They do here, and I don't like it.
Because it's illegal here and in Europe. So basically, the circus, you just see clowns, and that's a horror show in itself. But,
I hate clowns, man. I love clowns, but I hate them.
Speaking of horror, I stumbled across this documentary series, and if you want something to really get under your skin, it's called Five Come Back. It's the propaganda.
That's what it was.
Oh yeah,
but it's a series, right? And it's a wartime series because I can't remember.
It's a series that has there's 9 episodes in it. The first one is all the American news footage that they shot at the concentration camps when they were liberating them. So you have, I mean, it's real life. I mean, it's
real life horror,
real footage. And then the second one is it's a 2-parter about Russia and how Russia won the war and the reason why Russia is the way it is today, which is interesting from a 1940s point of view.
Right.
And then the other ones, and then there's the Midway, and then there's the Japanese war camps, what they were doing, and it's good. It's an eye opener. It makes you opens your eyes a little bit, see how things are, and it basically is the reality, not the history books version of it. And this is as it's unfolding and all the film footage that they took and stuff like that. So it's good.
Cool.
But it's not for the faint of heart. And It has a heavy 18 rating on it, so
Heavy.
Yeah, but it's good.
Well, they had a heavy rating on. They should have had a heavy rating on the regular news last night. I had to flip the channel. My grandson was here, so.
So that brings us to The Shining, which is a 1980 psychological horror film produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick and co-written with novelist Diane Johnson. The film is based on Stephen King's 1977 novel and stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers, and Danny Lloyd. The film does center around the character Jack Torrance, an aspiring writer and recovering alcoholic who accepts a position as an off-season caretaker of the isolated historic Overlook Hotel in the Colorado Rockies with his wife Wendy. Production took place almost exclusively at EMI Elstree Studios, with sets based on real locations. Kubrick often worked with a small crew, which allowed him to do many takes, sometimes the exhaustion of the actors and staff. The new Steadicam mount was used to shoot several scenes, giving the film an innovative and immense look and feel. There has been many speculations about the meanings and actions in the film because of the inconsistencies, ambiguities, symbolism, and differences from the book. The film was released in the United States on May 23rd, 1980, and in the United Kingdom on October 2nd, 1980 by Warner Brothers. There were several versions for theatrical release, each of which was cut shorter than the one preceding it. About 27 minutes were cut in total. Reactions to the film at the time of its release were mixed. Stephen King criticized the film due to its deviations from the novel. Critical opinion has become more favorable, with the film now widely considered one of the greatest and most influential horror films ever made and a staple of pulp culture. In 2018, the film was selected for the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and statistically significant. 39 years later, a sequel, Dr. Sleep, was released on November 8th, 2019. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer and be right back talking about The Shining from 1980.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? I hired a man named Charles Grady as the winter caretaker. From what I've been told, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
That's right.
Mom, do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Is there something bad here?
I fear you will have to deal with this matter in the harshest possible way.
I do that. I killed you and Danny.
You did this to me. Didn't you?
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. Here's Johnny.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining. And starting with you, Matthew, what are your thoughts on The Shining?
The Shining is probably one of the most influential works of art on my life ever. When I can still remember being a little kid and watching the Muppet Show in my parents' bedroom, and they were just flooding the television with commercials for The Shining. And I was watching those elevator doors open up and that blood come out. I was just hooked. I was obsessed with it. My parents wouldn't let me see it in the theater because I was really young, but as soon as it came out on videotape, I watched it over and over and over. And to this day, like, my family and I will act out scenes from it when we're driving. I just adore it. And I have all my own kind of theory. Kubrick is a genius. I like Kubrick's version better than Stephen King's version, to be honest. I like the hedge maze. I think that's one of the greatest metaphors ever, and how they get lost there. I like that Halloran dies. You know what I mean? Like, if you watch, like, Kubrick's like, it's supposed to be a horror book. No one dies in it. You got to kill somebody.
Somebody's got to go.
Yeah, I like the Indian burial ground stuff. I like all the differences in it. I think I like the way that he is. I don't mean people argue about what it even means, but to me, he becomes one with the hotel at the end. He's like sucked into it, and and the hotel wins, and I love that. I hate Stephen King's dark fantasy endings can kind of sometimes grate on my nerves a little bit, especially when he constantly does them over and over and over again. The good wins and bad wins over triumph. I like the hotel sucking Jack in, and it's fabulous. Love it.
Yeah, there's you start to see a lot of tropes in Stephen King's stuff. Like he I mean, I guess when the guy just is constantly writing, he's going to repeat himself a lot.
That's true. I never thought of that.
The thing that stuck out to me about this version, and I had never seen the version by Mick Garris until this week, and they're two very different films. And in retrospect, watching Dr. Sleep again after watching the 97 one, I feel like Dr. Sleep is now an even better movie, and I liked it initially.
I love Dr. Sleep.
But the main thing that gets me about the Kubrick movie is right at the beginning, like when you're zooming in, it's ice, like they're the only car on the road. You start getting that sense of isolation, and everything is so cavernous. That you start feeling really small, and you start feeling.
It does make you feel small, doesn't it? In the beginning, especially.
Yeah, and you really start to get a sense for when you have these gigantic spaces and very few people, it kind of makes the isolation work more. Whereas in the other one, I didn't feel that as much. I didn't feel like they were as isolated, even though they kept talking about it. But the feel of the way Kubrick set it up actually made me feel like, oh shit, I'm completely alone in this place. It's just the three of us and whatever the hell is out there. And make no mistake, in this movie there is something out there, because you know.
But they don't really identify it, do they? Though.
Well, no. Grady lets him out of the
thing?
Grady lets him out. If Grady hadn't opened that door and let him out of that pantry, then you could be like, well, he's always talking into the mirror. Because if you notice, every time there's ghosts around, there's a mirror there.
True.
Yeah.
So it's like a reflection of himself. But the fact that Grady that lets him out of that's the only truly supernatural element in the film.
Do you think he was like mental, y'all? Do you think that he was? Well, he was mental clearly, but he wasn't imagining all this.
Well, if Grady lets him out, there's a physical act.
That's right. He actually got out of
lets him out of that door.
Let's not forget
there's a supernatural force there.
The woman in the bathtub actually does try to strangle Danny, so that's a physical supernatural act too.
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
So that this isn't one person. I mean, it is one person slowly declining into
madness.
But at the same time, there is actually something there, and it's very clear there's something there because Danny sees it too, and Danny is actually physically attacked by it. You see the marks on his neck. So
I saw some naked ghost bitch getting out of a tub, and I was that young. I would not be sitting there waiting for her to come see me. It's like, run.
I like what Joe said about the isolation. It makes me think about the spirit of the Wendigo. And like when it first opens up, when they're talking about the cannibalism that took place in Donner Lake.
Oh, that's right, Donner Party. Yeah.
It really brings about that spirit of loneliness and hunger, and then the Native American stuff too.
See, totally Wendy, he saw it on the TV.
Yeah.
Saw it on the television.
I can understand one criticism that Stephen King has of this book is that with Jack Nicholson is that Jack Nicholson starts out mad and he just stays mad. He's kind of
a nice guy in the beginning, kind of.
Well, it's kind of. I mean, when I first saw The Shining, basically, I went to the movie theaters and saw it, and at that point, I was really into Stephen King's books. I read Carrie, and I read Salem's Lot, The Shining, The Stand, and I was working my way through. And he didn't have that many out that time, sort of thing. And that's back when he was producing a book once every 2 years. Back when it was quite.
That's when he was like cranking them out back then.
And so when I saw The Shining the first time, I was highly disappointed because I was like, oh, you know what I mean? And then I took some time away from it and then revisited when it came out on video and so on and so forth. And of course, by that time, I was a huge fan of The Clockwork Orange. I was watching a lot of Stanley Kubrick films and stuff like this. And then when I watched The Shining, I had more appreciation for it. Watching it this time, I actually watched the director's cut, which has all the 29 minutes put back into it, and it's the Ultra HD version that's out now. I was able to purchase it for $4.99, which is great. And
not a bad deal at all.
No, well, you can buy it on Amazon download for $4.99.
Joe's like, huh?
What's the runtime on that?
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, between
31, 2:31, I think.
What's the runtime on the one I watched?
And I have to sit there and say that, first of all, the picture is fantastic because it's like watching a 3D film. First of all, it's like feel like you're immersed into it. And yeah, I love the way it opens. And the thing is, I took a year off to live in Winter Park, Colorado at that time, so that road that they're going on, that's
the Trail Ridge Road. That's the road of death. I literally shit my pants all the way up there. But when we went, my kids were little and they were in the back and I was crying. I was so scared. I do not like roads like that. They don't have guardrails and it's just 1,000 feet drop off to going above tree line, no guardrails.
When I moved there after college, I actually drove my U-Haul full of furniture.
Oh, hell no.
My brother and I did that. We had a 23-foot box truck when I moved from New York to LA, and we drove through the Rockies. And we were doing it at night, and we didn't realize until at one point I'm like sleeping in the passenger seat.
I would have been.
And I wake up and I look to my right, and I'm like, wait a minute, and like there's no guardrails.
No, there's not.
It's like, holy shit. It's like 10,000 feet and like
down
4 feet to my right is the edge of the mountain. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, my brother's like, yeah, I'm looking for the closest, the first sign we see for a hotel. We're pulling over and we're continuing this in the morning. I'm like, yeah, because you don't see shit.
No.
So it's terrifying.
It's terrifyingly beautiful.
Roads, you get avalanches, and basically, if you're there with the avalanche, it just knocks the car right over the side of the road.
Oh yeah,
you're fine. We got lived through it because they actually got caught up, and because of the way the snow was, it was all like wet snow, so it kind of cradled the car into like a blanket sort of thing. And they dug them out, and he was fine, but. It's quite scary. I remember
it's too straight down, especially when you're above tree line. There is just nothing to hold.
I remember times when we were in Winter Park where we wanted to go. I mean, I used to drive that quite. I used to be drunk driving through up and down that, going to Denver to go out partying on the weekends and stuff.
College.
And I wasn't at college. I just finished college, so I took a year off before I started my job here.
Well, you were still young and stupid then.
I'm still drinking. That's part of it. But yeah, I just remember like, and there would be times that we would go to Denver and then we couldn't get home because we snowed off.
Oh yeah.
We had to wait like 24 hours for it to clear off and we couldn't go out or whatever like that. But even in the spring and summertime, you had to worry because there were mudslides that would basically just slide down the sides.
It's so pretty up there though.
I would sit there, in the summertime I had that, I had top down in my convertible and I was just riding those roads. But there have been other times like on New Year's Eve going through the Eisenhower Tunnel where you see them go through the tunnel, through the thing. And New Year's Eve, me and 3 of my friends were in there and basically went through the Eisenhower Tunnel and there's ice on the other side of it. And the wind caught the car and we were tail spinning it around.
That's not a good place to tail spin.
And hitting the rubber bumper and your car bends it. I mean, we were fine, but it did give us, we better go home now.
Did you guys think that Kubrick had a continuity problem? Before I forget, because the typewriters change.
Yeah.
And then
everything changes all the time.
And then Wendy's talking to him, and then there's a chair, and then the scene reverts back. The chair's gone. Then the chair and the little table's back. And you got to wonder, is he doing this on purpose?
Absolutely. I think so. There's a bearskin rug that appears and disappears. The lights will be different too.
The little, what do you call it? One of the seven dwarves there, Sleepy, Dopey.
Oh yeah, they changed on the door when in the beginning. Yeah, there's tons of that. I think.
I just wonder why. I mean, is he just what's he trying to prove?
Creeping you out
after?
He's trying to bring you into that world. I think that's what he was doing. Is he was trying to make you wonder if you're going mad with the Torrances.
That's a good yeah. That's
a lot of it's subconscious. You don't notice it, but something in the back of your brain is like, this isn't right. Like The Office with the window in it, the impossible window. You go into this labyrinth.
It's in the middle,
and you get into the middle of the hotel, and there's a window where you can see outside, and it's.
But the office is inside the middle of the building, right? So that window could not be.
It's an impossible window. Or how about all their luggage? When they pull up, and they're in a little VW bug.
Right.
And you see all the pile of luggage they have? Where the hell would they put all that?
Was that all their luggage? I was wondering because there's people standing around it and then they kind of file out.
Well, he says there's my luggage there. I mean, another thing I think of, okay, they're in a Volkswagen Bug.
Right.
And we basically know what the storage is like that. Where in the hell did Danny's three-wheeler come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was so important to the story, his little three-wheeler, you know?
Well, even when he's traveling around, he's not traveling around in a complete square that you think he is. He's doubling back on himself because if you look at the sides, basically when he's wheeling around, next thing you know, he's upstairs. How did he get upstairs? He didn't go up any stairs.
Is he like going like in a car garage kind of thing? Is he using an elevator because he's always on either a different hallway or a different floor?
You know, he's on a flat surface. It's just that
it's like a dream.
I mean, it's
so hard to I guess it's your own mind opinion.
Stealing a lot from other little horror house films at this time. Legend of Hill House is about how the walls are always changing.
Right, right.
And that was very popular at the time. The Indian Burial Ground, Amityville Horror, which is very popular at this time. You know, the movie just came out a year earlier. There's a lot of The Haunting. Is it in the mind or not in the mind? You know, classic 1965.
I just try to remember when Stephen King's that character that turns into the plant. Is it Creepshow? I think it's a Creepshow.
That's Creepshow, yeah.
Is he watching The Shining on the little TV?
He was watching wrestling.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was watching wrestling.
I'm trying to there was something. I don't know. I have to look that up. It's going to bug the crap out of me.
Yeah, the Lonesome Death.
Another thing you have to think of is like I can tell you for a fact this is 1980s America, and you're in the middle of nowhere. How in the hell are they getting TV reception?
There's no TV is not even plugged in. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
The TV's just sitting there on.
Well, don't you guys remember putting tinfoil on your antenna?
Well.
Yeah.
But the TV's in the middle of the room as well. It's not against the wall or anything. It's in the middle of the room when they're watching it.
It's not plugged in. Genius. I'm going to have to go through that and look again. It's going to bug me.
And like, I don't know, Vicky was mentioning the car before, how like in the book, it's a red VW, and then he made it a yellow VW, and then you see the wrecked VW.
The wreck, and it's the red VW. So it's FU to Stephen King because Stephen King didn't like what he did with his book in the screenplay.
And Stephen King actually drove a red VW, so it's even a double. But I also think that maybe he changed it to a yellow VW because when that film was being produced, Ted Bundy had just gotten caught
in a yellow VW.
Yes, and so the yellow VW was in the American people's brain like crazy at that time.
That is wild. You know what? I bet you're right.
The first shot you see is the yellow VW in Colorado, where Ted Bundy killed a number of women.
That's right. I would have never put that together, and I love
reading
about serial killers, but that would have never have come to my brain right then and there. That's a good. That's a good.
My bit of shinologist.
That's like a good catch.
My shinology.
Yeah.
I mean, Kubrick also at this time was really into subliminal messages as well. He was talking to advertising campaigns and all that sort of stuff. And at that time, it was legal to give subliminal messages. If you look at magazine ads for anything, doesn't matter what you're looking for during this time period, you can find like words etched in the pictures like sex and subliminal messages. If you look at, I remember the old Camel cigarette packs. There would be two naked people within the cigarette pack of Camel and stuff like this. Yeah,
there's a guy with his penis out. You can see so much stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also subliminal messages was the thing there. He did a little bit of it during Clockwork Orange. There's a little bit of subliminal messaging in there, and there is, than any of his other films. But this is where he takes it to the hilt, sort of thing. It's like there, because subliminal messages is what your brain picks up.
Right.
Now,
The Labyrinth, the Minotaur.
Is a film meant to be watched with nothing else going on around you, as well.
I would think that'd be so cool to be isolated. If some of you guys are writers, you like to write, you just, got to check this boiler every once in a while in this beautiful luxury hotel, all the food you want. But there's always a catch, isn't there?
Well, let's take the lockdown, for instance, when people were in lockdown for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
And basically, what do we find, what your statistics are showing at the moment now, they're starting to come out. Divorce rates are starting to go up now because of it. Spousal abuse started going up, sort of thing. And
lots of alcoholism and suicide.
What was the biggest complaint during the lockdown, which is only 3 to 4 months? The thing is, like, you could go outside your house if you want to. The biggest complaint, I don't know what to do with my kids. That was pretty much all across the board, sort of thing. So
that's true. The kids were so bored. But they had homeschool going on too, so they had some stuff going on.
People were trying to work from home and all the other stuff going on, and it's just a pressure. But and any time that people are stuck, it's been like, there's also this difference as well. Like for a simple fact that when you're at home, when you're growing up, when you're a kid, and you're quite happy, doing whatever you do. But you quite happy to stay inside and watch TV all day, even though the day is sunny and like that. As soon as you're grounded and you can't go out, that's when you want to go out.
Right.
You have that going on as well. And you get, and I think The Shining does show that. It's just like, little things start bothering you when you're stuck with people for over a period of time if you can't get out of their company.
Yeah.
Whether there's they could be the way that they're holding their fork when they're eating dinner, or maybe the way that it just taps against the plate when they're shoveling it in, or just little things start to grate on you over a period of time.
Did they even eat? I never even watched them have one meal.
Yeah, she brought him eggs. Don't you remember? He's dipping the bacon in the eggs.
Oh, that's right. There was something to that scene too, when he's dipping the eggs.
The mirror. It's a mirror within a mirror within a mirror.
Yeah, it's weird because his shirt's backwards.
Then you realize you're looking at another mirror.
Yeah, his shirt was backwards, and then all of a sudden his shirt, you can read it. I can't remember what it said. It began with an S. Do you remember what it said?
It's something to do with the Indians, I think, didn't it?
Was it a college?
I can't remember. No, it's not. I can't remember what it was now. But
it wasn't Stanford.
One minute you're looking at it, and the next minute it's I picked that up, and Keith asked me. Well, he didn't ask me to watch it. He suggested it. It's called Room 237, and I watched it. I've still got another half hour, but I watched The Shining with totally new eyes. Let's just get the albatross out of the room. A lot of people think this is Kubrick's nod to Apollo 11 and that he faked all the film footage for NASA. What does everybody think?
No, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
But okay, so you got all the little signals there. Apollo this, Apollo that. You've got, you got to wonder. You got the room, 237. It's 237,000 miles to the moon. What do you, there's weird.
He changed that number from the book, but then the hotel said to change it. They made him change it so that because there's not a real room. I know Danny has the sweater. That was one of the biggest ones.
42. Oh yeah, the Apollo 11 sweater.
Yeah, but I read an interview with one of the production assistants who said that she found that in a thrift store, and it just seemed very American because they wanted it to be America.
It was during space flight.
And also just something a little boy would like.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
As far as the Apollo goes, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. But sometimes I do wonder when you see when you see Neil Armstrong land on the moon, you kind of like, how did they put the camera outside the spaceship first to film that?
Well, they probably landed on the moon. I was told that the footage was destroyed, and so they had to sufficiently give the American and the world public what they wanted. So, it's you kind of wonder, because let's face it, our government is really sketchy. Okay.
Well,
they just are.
They do say in the thingy that man did land on the moon, and basically they just need to get film footage for people to watch it. I'm not saying I believe or disbelieve that, but I can understand the argument for it, because whenever I see it, sort of thing, I mean, it's a bit like watching a Real Housewives program to a certain extent. And, and everyone thinks that's real, but that is a one camera show. So basically, if two people are having an argument and then you're watching the other person's reaction to it, that means they cut, show me your reaction now. Because it's a one camera show. Otherwise, the camera is flinging back and forth. With the Apollo landing, I can understand why people would think that, because the idea would basically be before Neil Armstrong came off the spaceship, something had to be released from the spaceship to stand back there and be able to film it from the angle that it's filmed. Because you can't film that from within inside the spaceship from that angle. So it's like,
so they must have. Oh yeah, you're right. So somebody had to do the first step on the moon. You're right. I never thought of that either. So there might be something to it. I mean, there was a lot of reference. You have to admit, there's a lot of reference to Apollo, or either that or it was just subliminal. But I mean, I thought it was kind of weird if you listen to that documentary, it's like makes you think. It's like, were we duped? It wouldn't be the first time.
People would do crazy things in that documentary. Don't they show it forward and backward at the same exact time?
I actually like that, because that was actually that was fascinating, the way that the film actually lines up. I was quite. It's like I would actually want to see that. I would actually pay to go out to movie theaters and see that done that way.
Good excuse to eat some acid.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird because they do show it, and it does the way it lines up.
I love The Shining so much. I would see it backwards, forwards, on top of itself, upside down. You show me The Shining, I will sit there and watch it.
Poor Shelley Duvall. We got to definitely give her a real nod, because he made her crazy. Her hair started falling out during that movie.
Did you see the footage of her doing the coke? Did you ever see that shot? She's doing a line of coke.
I never saw that.
Shelley, it's not going to help you, Shelley. It's because his daughter made a little documentary. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's on the Blu-ray.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, I think another thing is that Stanley Kubrick is quite a strong personality. But I also think that we need to know where Shelley Duvall came from. Shelley Duvall comes from Robert Altman.
Yes.
That's where she comes from. The Robert Altman thing that basically just let loose, and we're going to have, basically we have a very little script, and you just shoot, let's ad lib.
Improv.
And now she's dealing with a director who's very, very, everything's precise. Kubrick is precise. Ad libbing with Kubrick. And the thing is, he's a bit like Alfred Hitchcock in this way. Is basically like you say your lines, but whatever happens, you're going to be here at this point, and the next point you got to be here. You need to be here. You need to be here. You need to be here. And I don't care how you say your lines, just as long as you're at these places. If you're not at those places, you have a problem.
But they ask Alfred Hitchcock, "What's my motivation?" He says, "Your paycheck."
That's pretty motivating, I guess. Don't you think?
Yeah, Three Women's one of my favorite movies, man. It is so spooky and weird.
Was Jack like a full-blown alcoholic? I mean, he said he pulled
recovering alcoholic.
Okay, so did he mean to hurt Danny, Doc, whatever you want to call him?
I don't think he meant to.
Because I think he really loved his son. I just think he was one of those. I don't know. Are all you writers angry men? I don't know.
I think with this Shining, I think as far as the emotional relationship between these three people are concerned, it's kind of non-existent. There's not a love between Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson.
There doesn't seem to be no grand passion there.
No love between Danny and the mom and Danny and her father either. I mean, they tend to they coexist with each other, but there's no really sweet moments between any of them. Shelley Duvall is annoying.
Every time she talks, I think of olive oil. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but her character.
Robert Altman.
I see olive oil. I don't know. I just think Popeye.
That's a Robert Altman movie too.
Yeah.
But the Shelley Duvall character in this is basically whenever she's talking to Jack, there's always this kind of a moan to it. Did you get the job, Jack? And there's like this all the way through it, which is annoying in its own sense if you have to live with that. So obviously then Jack.
You think he cast her because she's annoying?
Duvall, it's always with a sharpness to it.
Do you think he cast her because she's annoying?
No, I think that's the way it's written. I think that's what he wanted, because that actually brings the family to not. I mean, with that kind of character involvement going on, you got You got the caustic husband all the way through. Even when he's saying good morning or the Donna
He's
party,
caustic.
there's a bit of aggression there with Jack Nicholson's character from beginning to end. You got Danny, he's kind of like unemotionalist, actually, even in, and he's just kind of like in his own headspace anyway. So
I never felt so bad for Shelley Duvall, her character, when she comes to check on him and he's typing and he's don't fucking bother me.
Jack Nicholson wrote that scene,
but her character
really happened to him.
Is annoying all the way through it. I mean, if you look at things like, did you get the job, Jack? That whole thing is, or like, are you working? It's like he's working or whatever he's doing. Are you? She's like over his shoulder, and that's kind of and there's always this. There's a neediness to her all the way through. It's not like she just kind of gets on with it. She's not getting on with her day. She's just there all the time. So and it works fine in The Shining because you see these three people who are part of the family, and this is probably one of the most dysfunctional families that you're ever going to see in a film. All three of them are dysfunctional within their own setting.
Yeah. Boy, she smoked a lot around that kid. Gotta love the 80s. You're sitting there eating your cereal and your parents are drinking beer and blowing smoke in your face, and we live to tell about our childhood.
But the other thing is also she still covers for him. She still covers for Jack. I definitely get more of the sense of the battered wife in the 1980 version.
I do too.
There's that scene where they ask about Danny's arm, and she's making excuses, kind of. It's what it is.
Yeah, it was an accident. As she's blowing smoke everywhere.
Like you might do. What she say? She's like anybody might do.
Yeah, like anybody might do. You know what? If my husband ever talked to me the way he talked to her when he was typing, I would have been the first one with that axe. I can tell you that. That dog wouldn't have hunted at all.
She's very mean. Jack Nicholson said he actually did that. He did. They were making that scene, and he's like, once I was typing, and because he was a script writer, and my girlfriend came in the room, and I fucking just yelled at her, and he's like, we broke up after that. And Kubrick's like, all right, let's do it just like that, like it happened to you.
In Jack's defense, Roger Corman probably told him that screenplay was due on Wednesday.
Yeah, right.
Listen, we only got Boris Karloff.
Don't hear me typing with the fuck you here.
We got Boris Karloff for 3 hours on Wednesday, and we need a script. Let's fucking go, Jack.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, I know that if I'm hitting deadlines or I'm writing or something like this, and I got someone asking me questions all the way through, I get arsey with them. I was like, "What in the fuck do you want?" I say that to them. I remember I had one flatmate, and I was working on something that had to be out, and she just got talking to me all the whole time. It's just like I turned around and go, "What in the fuck do you want? Can't you damn fucking work? Get the fuck away from me!" And she started crying, which is, it was rude of me. I had to go up and apologize to her. But the thing is, like, it becomes annoying after a while. If you're working and someone's there in your ear the whole time, it's like, why? It's different. It's different if they're asking you something important, but they're asking you like what you have for breakfast and all the other stuff that goes along with it. You're like, can't you see I'm busy? Can't you just go somewhere else?
I think part of it is I like back in 2011 I was hired to write a screenplay. And I was living with my brother, and a couple friends had moved in, and they didn't seem to understand that just because I'm not leaving the house to work
doesn't mean
I'm not working. Because they would keep coming in and trying to talk to me like, guys, I gotta fucking finish this draft in 3 weeks. Oh well, you're home all day. We could like go. Do you want to go do something? No, dude, I'm doing something now. Like I cannot like just go hang out. And I think people don't get that when you're writing. It's like. They'll come in. What are you doing? Hey, do you want to go to the movies tonight? No, dude, I really do not have time to go to the movies. I understand that I'm working from home and I'm home all the time, but you understand that this is due in 3 weeks, and I have to get it done now.
Forget about the typewriter thing, real quick. They said that international versions of the movie, they had little tweaks in them in terms of language and culture, and they had that. Remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Mm-hmm. And they say it didn't resonate in other languages or other parts of the world. And so they had different versions with different lines. In Germany, it was never put off tomorrow, what you can do today, or Spanish, no matter how early you get up, you can't make the sun rise any sooner. And I didn't know that. So, but we saw all work and, no play makes Jack dull. They did that in different languages because our whatever did not translate well into their culture. Isn't that weird?
I didn't know that either.
That
really
poor
cool.
fucking intern that had to type that.
Yeah.
There's no copy.
Oh my
paste
God!
and
Somebody actually had to type that, didn't they? I just thought of that.
There's no copy and paste.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah,
Some poor hack.
All the different formats. Oh,
wow! I didn't even think of that, Joe.
And now that you're telling me that they use different phrases in different,
They did. Oh my God! No shit.
The poor fucking interns.
Oh my God! That must have sucked
You
balls.
did have a memory typewriter where you could type a line and then you could have, I think it was shift or something, and it would repeat it.
Did he have an electric typewriter? I know he had.
You could do that. Okay.
They had a manual typewriter, but did he have an electric typewriter? Because I can't
Yeah,
remember.
no, it was manual because it had the keys in it. It wasn't
Yeah, but they switched the typewriter, and then it had it looked like the Third Reich Eagle on it, kind of thing.
But I remember there was electric typewriter. I'm not saying that this was used in the movie, but there was electrics that remember that you could actually type into it, and then it would remember the line, and just repeat the one line.
That was that old IBM with the little ball thing on it back in the day.
Yeah.
We used to have to take typing class. Remember the IBM had the little ball thing on it?
Totally.
We used to beat the shit out of each other because we all wanted that one typewriter in typing class. We wanted the electric one.
I remember typing class anyway. It's like, oh, it's Christmas time. Let's do a Christmas trip. Let's do a Christmas card, and you use the X's. Remember?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, we were so lame.
I mean, another thing, the door that Jack chopped through the axe near the end of the film, that was real. They were going to use a fake door, but because Jack Nicholson used to be a fire marshal.
Yeah. So he actually, did you see that clip I sent you where he's jumping around trying to get excited, and then you got Shelley Duvall shutting the door, and he's just, I mean, I think I would have been scared shitless too if I saw Jack Nicholson coming through the door, the way he was hammering on that, because he was really in character.
I also know from what we know about Kubrick. Kubrick tend to get better along with male.
He didn't like Shelley, or was he just found what was going on?
I think he had problems with. I mean, there's problems with Shelley Winters and Lolita. There was problems. Nicole Kidman.
Wasn't that Eyes Wide Shut? Was that what that was?
Yes, she didn't have a relationship with him where Tom had a good relationship.
That was a weird friggin' movie.
Do you remember the behind the scenes where he goes over to? There's a behind the scenes thing where he goes over to Jack Nicholson and is whispering to him, and you're like, "Ooh, I wonder what he's saying to him." You know, like getting all deep about the character and this and that. But Jack Nicholson's mic'd up, and they've got the conversation.
Do they?
Goes over to him, and you know what he says? Did you check out the tits on the lady who delivered the tea?
Oh my God.
So there's toxic masculinity running rampant through there. Yeah.
Well, it was the latter 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And I mean, boys will be boys. I don't beat up men for being men. They can't help it. It's an affliction. It really is. You know?
I like how the soundtrack was done by Walter Carlos, who is now Wendy Carlos. So now with any new feature, now when you see the print, they had to go through all the prints and actually change it from Walter to Wendy.
I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah, he used to be Walter Carlos. He did Switch on Bach, really popular albums.
I saw that they were going to have somebody else. But I think they were looking at Harrison Ford for that part, and somebody else.
Al Pacino. Oh, and Robin Williams was really close. Robin Williams was almost it.
That would have been really interesting.
And then Kubrick watched Mork and Mindy and said that Robin Williams was too over the top and didn't do it.
It's quite sad because what we know from Robin Williams, he was very over the top.
Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro, Harrison Ford, and Robin Williams, yeah.
Robin Williams could have been quite interesting because if you look at Robin Williams, okay, I know that
I think he could have pulled it off.
You need a very strong director to pull him in. But if you look at things like 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia, he would have been great.
That's exactly the ones I was thinking of. I'm like, he could play a creep really, really well.
Even in Garp, I mean, that was his first movie, and the director had to hone him in. It's like, no, you're not getting away with that. No, come on, we're not looking for your stand up here. You're a character. Right. So I think he probably could,
I think he could pull it off.
You think of Mrs. Doubtfire and Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh yeah, I love Good Morning Vietnam.
Though he does dramatic very well, there always tends to be okay, here comes the comedy stick, here comes the John Wayne voice, here comes, all the other stuff that comes with it. So yeah, could have been interesting actually. I think Jack Nicholson's brilliant in it, but I do understand he does come across as quite crazy Matt from the very get go. He just is crazier. He's not the most sane person from the beginning and grows to craziness. He starts out crazy and just gets crazier. So I can understand what Stephen King said about that side of things. I mean, I'm surprised.
Man. Stanley Kubrick did an interview, I think, with Playboy, and in it he said Stephen King was a hack, and that he had to do a lot of work on the screenplay to make it scary at all. And you got to remember, this isn't Stephen King that we know. This is Stephen King back in 1979, 78. Yeah. So like, he wasn't that big of a deal. It was only his third book. So like, Stephen King
came out,
real personal. He did not like that, and then Stephen King was not allowed to go to the set. He wasn't allowed to go to the set. He wasn't talked to, and he just took it all real personal. I think
he upset because he was working through. I think I read this correctly, that he was working through his own alcoholism, and that's why he was writing this book that way.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe that's why he was taking it personally. It was his own private demon that he was trying to quell.
Even in the book, he's not that happy of a guy. He's gone through so much fucked up shit. You know what I mean? He got fired from the school, fired from his teaching job, got assault charges pressed on him. He was, you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes Stephen King is just being a dick, He
can be.
I also think with Stephen King, I don't think he would have that much access anyway. This is only his second book is only his second book that went to go. And to be honest, when I was actually looking through the newspaper clippings, the only thing that Stephen King ever said is that he thought, and I can understand where he's coming from. I'm not saying that I totally agree with it, but that his only problem with it is that Jack Nicholson starts off as crazy and just stays that way. He didn't see it. He said he would have liked it if Jack Nicholson started out as quite normal and loving, and then went into that direction. And that's the only thing he had to say about The Shining. That's the only.
No, he didn't like the ending either. He said that Kubrick is cold and Kubrick is ice, and that he's fire and he's heat, and that he thinks that the Overlook should have blown up.
But I mean, another thing is that when Stephen King made these kind of suggestions, anyway, first of all, he had Carrie, and Carrie, they changed stuff in the book. I mean, the gym teacher does not die in the book and all this other stuff sort of thing. So, those changes had happened. Then The Shining came along. And then after The Shining was what? Salem's Lot.
Yeah. So
he's been very, very fortunate. Now, this is before Firestarter and Graveyard Shift and all the other shit that they made out of his movies. So, before he realized that, like, they'll take my books and they'll turn it to shit, sort of thing. And,
he had no problem with the new Pet Cemetery, and they completely changed that. The new Pet Cemetery. I liked it a lot. But I mean, he had no problem with the new with the Dr. Sleep. It's like, if you got a problem with people fucking with your books, you pick weird battles. I think he just didn't like Kubrick. They just didn't.
They just didn't like each other.
I also think that it might have been marketing, because Stephen King was also having a book released as well, so got his name in the inches as well. Maybe he was just saying something to be a bit. And the critics were tearing this movie apart when it first came out, so I think he was jumping on board there. It's like, I got a new, because I mean, to be honest, if an actor or a writer or a director is saying anything about anything, it's normally because they got something promoting behind it, sort of thing. Trust me, if they got nothing coming out, you don't hear from these people.
With Dr. Sleep, I feel like there was some kind of compromise made with Mike Flanagan early on, because first off, all the stuff in the Overlook Hotel in Dr. Sleep feels kind of tacked on. But he's like, hey, look, we'll give you that ending, but it's like, look, we gotta, if we're going to make a movie sequel to The Shining, it has to be a sequel to the iconic version. I think by that point, King realized that is the version of The Shining that everybody gravitates towards. Yeah. But what I was going to say a bit ago is, Carrie is a great movie. I think Stephen King doesn't translate as well to film. I think it's because just his style of writing.
Look at the new Stand. I mean,
I don't think it's a style of writing. Is that Stephen King can't write a fucking ending. He's never been able to write a fucking ending. He's like a Blumhouse film. He doesn't know how to write endings. So what you do is you get a great build up, and then you got this weird tacked on happy endings.
He's a pantser. He writes
I
from
don't
the seat of
think
his
it
pants.
or any
He
of
doesn't
those
really
were
give
happy
plot.
endings.
But the best,
The book it has a shitty ending. I'm sorry, this mock turtle crap thing at the end of that. What the hell is all that?
But that's the thing. The best Stephen King movies are the ones that deviated most from his writing.
Yes.
Well, he had a good base. He just not a good screenplay, maybe.
Well, Misery. I'll give Misery probably a good adaptation. Dolores Claiborne is a good adaptation, but they
I
still
love
have
Dolores Claiborne
about it to make it a bit more filmatic. I stopped reading Stephen King from the 90s onwards, but from the earlier stuff, Salem's Lot,
I love Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot's pretty faithful.
Not really. It's not faithful at all. It's a monster vampire. It's a Nosferatu. He's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
But it's
I
Toby
like
Hooper.
James
Toby
Mason.
Hooper's a genius, and I love that Salem's Lot miniseries. Man,
David Soul
changed my life, man. When I was a little kid, I saw that, and I've been a horror freak.
Same. I loved it too.
But
that
also
kid, the little Danny at the window, whatever his name was,
Yeah,
that fucked me
Danny
up for
Glick.
the longest time. That kid
Am I misremembering this, or was there a shorter version of that was on home video? Because
Salem's Lot?
There was.
I remember.
There's
I remember
two.
renting it. It was only one VHS tape. Then when I bought the Blu-ray, I'm like, wait, it's 3 hours?
Yes.
Salem's
They
Lot
condensed it for theatrical
Salem's
release.
Lot was a TV from network television, so it did. So there are limitations with providing that because it's network television in the 80s, and let's face it, there's not a lot you can get away with at that time. And Toby Hopper pushed it as far as this go. Then they decided to release it internationally through Europe and UK as a theatrical film.
Right.
So what you got on the VHS was a theatrical film, which has a little bit more. There's a little bit more gore in it, a little bit more subtle differences in it, but not a lot, sort of thing. But it is cut shorter as well. It kind of goes from A to B very quickly.
They filmed that right down the road from me, and they had a 40-year anniversary a couple years ago. I went down there. They actually had me they had the actor who played Danny Glick come, and they had me come and introduce everybody and do a reading from the book. It was really cool because there's that graveyard there. I go hang out at that graveyard all the time, man. It's just.
If you're a fan of Salem's Lot, you should check out the radio drama that the BBC did over Salem's Lot. It's really good.
Oh, yeah?
It's a 6-part radio drama that does a really fantastic job with it as well. And there again, we had to change some of the things to make it more readable. And Salem's Lot also, Stephen King also did his version of Salem's Lot, which we'll be covering next year. But yeah,
The Rob Lowe version?
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. I have the DVD, so I'm ready for it.
I liked it.
I mean, the thing about Salem's Lot, I mean, you get a fairly good adaptation, and the stuff that they didn't show that's in the book, it has to do. I'm sure it has more to do with, critics and censors and what you could show on network television. Salem's Lot was on network television when you only had 3 or 4 channels before cable.
Yeah. I watched it when it aired, man. I was all about it.
I remember
Rutger Hauer did a good job of it in the newer version. I really liked it.
That's why when you see the numbers, when you see the ratings,
the second part came out.
I love James Mason though. Turn and face the master.
Yes, that's so good.
Epic.
Yeah.
That's why when you see the ratings, when you see the ratings for these TV movies, they have like these monster 55 point ratings. It's like you're never going to get that now because there's too many TV channels.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, so which is kind of that's why I'm kind of wondering about some of what Stephen King said about when The Shining came out, because he only had one book of this come out, which Carrie, which got rave reviews and got Oscar nominations and kind of did something that a horror film really very rarely did at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Shining came out, and it's like, and Carrie wasn't a faithful adaptation, but it did get him noticed. And if it wasn't for Carrie the movie, he probably wouldn't have been the novelist he is today. Because Carrie the book sold but after the movie came out, it sold even better. And then The Shining comes out second. So, it's kind of hard. I'm kind of wondering what was behind it, sort of thing. Because I said before, if someone's saying something negative about something, first of all, the critical reviews came out and they were very mixed at this moment. And
People just didn't get The Shining when it first came out, though.
Well, I think it's a different. I mean, it turned the tide. It changed the way that you look at horror films. I mean, normally horror films are, whether you're looking at Italian horror films or American horror films, up until that point, I mean, there's a formula to them, and Stanley Kubrick doesn't fit that formula. I mean, Halloween, killing happens, time passes, and then you have a stalk and slash starts up. That's starting up at the same time. Ghost Story was kind of overwrought. It's an okay movie. The book's a lot better, of course. Right. So you kind of had that, and then, but it feels like an old-fashioned movie shot in 1980.
Unlike Halloween Kills or the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that everybody's beating the hell out of.
The new Texas Chainsaw was so terrible.
But there's
horror films that are artistic, though. Let's face it. There's very few horror films that are considered highbrow art.
I think nowadays there is. Nowadays they all are. Us, all the A24 movies, Hereditary, Midsommar, The Lighthouse, Killing of a Sacred
love The
Deer.
Lighthouse. I still think was there before. I know, but this is not on topic. But I'm always confused about The Lighthouse. Was there some gay stuff going on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I think so.
Because I couldn't
he
tell.
filmed a shot of a penis rising up, and the penis fades into a lighthouse and becomes the lighthouse. They actually shot it and
why
did
didn't
it.
I catch
but then
that?
they had to take it out. And he took it out. He said it was.
I was going to say, because I didn't see that.
It's homoerotic as hell. There's a point where they almost kiss. And then they
that is what I was wondering about. I was like, that movie confused me to no end. I don't know why.
So weird.
These kinds of like art house horror
good,
movies
though.
have always existed. It's just now they're finally getting their due. Because even in the 70s, you had The Wicker Man.
It's a musical, though. It's like, come on.
What's that?
It's a weird musical. I don't know if it's like an art film.
The Wicker Man.
Oh, I love it. Don't get me wrong.
I think what Robin Hardy was trying to do was what we would now call, quote unquote, elevated horror. I mean, when you think of, I think even going back as far as the first one I can think of that I could maybe say was probably an attempt at making an art house horror movie was probably The Black Cat in 1934.
Or German Expressionism before that, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, that was my art.
You know what? And that's, you're absolutely right, because that's where Ulmer got a lot of his ideas was from the old German Expressionist films. I think he actually worked at some point with Murnau. If I remember correctly, I think he did work with Murnau. I think he did work with a lot of those guys before he emigrated to the United States. So it's the art house horror. I feel like it's always been there. It's just we're finally now accepting it as like, no, a horror movie can be considered high art. I think back then they just kind of dismissed everything that was horror as just kid stuff or just low brow, even though you had even some of the Corman stuff in the early 60s, the Vincent Price movies. They're dismissed as kid stuff, but when you watch them, they're actually very good.
Original Cat People. That was
fuck, how do I not mention Val Lewton? Val Lewton was making art house horror in the 40s.
Right.
But I also think is that but I'm saying that when the Stanley Kubricks came out, this came out in 1980, you have to look at what was constituted horror. What were the big horror films that came out?
The slasher movies.
Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, The Exorcist, Halloween. And there is, I mean, there is an artfulness, but I mean, this is Stanley Kubrick, and I guess that what you have basically is that Stanley Kubrick's going to do a horror film. But then this comes on the back of Barry Lyndon in 2001. Yeah. And it's a bit like a bunch of Andy Warhol people going to, like very highbrow art people going to see a highbrow art thing, and then they find something that they think is going to be something, but it doesn't live up to their expectation. Doesn't mean that the public's expectation doesn't live up to their. And film
Kubrick, the bar is so high.
Anyway, at this time they were a bit up their own arse. And another thing you have to remember about critics at this time is that if you're riding on a huge wave and you're this director or whatever riding on this huge wave, even if you're an actor, they're just waiting to find something to bring you back down a little bit. That's what critics do. When you watch the Andy Warhol thingy, and it's just like they said that some of his best work was before he died. He came out with these fantastic things, but the critics are always attacking him because he was up here now, sort of thing. So it was easy, but then they could take someone down here who might be doing the same thing and then bring them up and talk about that. And film critics are normally people who, if you can't do the job, they're criticizing the job. it's like, if you can't act, you're normally an acting teacher. You can't direct and become a critic. You know what I mean? It's like if you can't write a screenplay, they're the ones that writing film. They're the ones writing. They become film critics.
Yep.
So,
but I think in this case, yeah, he deviates a lot from the novel. I think he took the themes of alcoholism and and the idea of somebody coming to take the soul, and I think Kubrick just kind of wanted to remake The Phantom Carriage, and I think that's just where we were with this one, because I think he wanted to stay away from doing everything too close to the novel.
What about Lloyd the bartender? For Lloyd the bartender, creepy as fuck. But
oh fuck yeah!
Wasn't he in a movie like with the genie? He was like the genie in the bottle. No way, I don't think
he was in a lot of films.
He did a lot of films, and I didn't know that the other gentleman who was in the interview, he played Pontius Pilate in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Nelson, yeah,
totally went over my head.
Did you guys ever look at some of the drafts that they made where they were going to make Halloran go bad?
Yeah.
There was some weird screenplay drafts they had.
I hated seeing Scatman Crothers get it, though. I loved him. I just loved him. It's like, God, why do they got to kill him? But
somebody's got to die. You got an axe. It's like
somebody's got to die. I know.
Chekhov's gun, right?
He didn't even get a chance to really do anything, though. He just got there and he
brought the snowmobile. He brought the
the cat. Yeah, the Arctic cat. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 Jesus Christ Superstar cast album members in here. I mean, the concept, they're actually from the concept album. Barry Dennen as well is in there as well.
Is he?
This Jesus must die, must die, must die.
Yeah, Caiaphas, yeah. I love that. I love Jesus
the Pontius Pilate guy was Barbara Streisand. He would date Barbara Streisand's ex-boyfriend who became a big gay person later on.
The guy from Licorice
Barbara's
Pizza?
doing Eliza.
The hairdresser?
The one he plays, Stuart Ullman.
Oh, okay.
Harry Nelson.
Did you see Licorice Pizza?
He's Christ Superstar person. So,
I will be
actors anyway. I mean, you got to remember all these people are. I mean, this is all filmed over here as well. I think the only Americans are basically Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Everyone else is English.
Boy, it's so weird looking. Seriously, he gets the weirdest looking actors, don't you think? Like when I watch A Clockwork Orange and stuff.
Yeah, that itself though, that was just such a strange movie.
Yeah, he's got those shots of terror, and he's got him in A Clockwork Orange when the writer's watching his wife get raped, and there's like the close up of his face and his eyes bugging out, and then he does the same thing in The Shining with Danny when he sees the twins. It's like the same that look of, or also in Shelley Duvall. It's like that painting The Scream. Shelley Duvall really nails it there when it's that look of terror. He always
he also does everything very stage center as well, which is kind of weird because this is before video is just about coming onto the market as far as being able to do that. And as you know, when you saw a lot of older movies, especially, I mean, this is a 70 mil film anyway. So basically, you know that when this came out in video, I think it was like 82, 83, it's going to be a pan and scan thing. And it was quite interesting that basically all his stuff takes place right in the middle. All his faces are right in the middle. The conversations are right in the middle. They're not, a lot of times what they'll do is our director will sit there and go, okay, Shelley Duvall's going to be on the left, Jack Nicholson's going to be on the right, and then we'll get a pan and scan version where you got that thing going back and forth. Like with a lot of older films.
Maybe you guys could
kept everything in the middle.
Maybe you guys could answer because I didn't understand this fact. They said Kubrick used another film as an example for his cast, and he let them watch David Lynch's Eraserhead. That, of course, little Danny didn't see it. Oh, thank God. But what was he going for when he wanted them to watch Eraserhead and incorporate that into The Shining? Because I am not a director or a scriptwriter. So.
Well, that has a lot of stoic acting in it. The Eraserhead has a lot of stoic acting in it. There's no emotional acting in Eraserhead.
That's true. I didn't think Eraserhead is so fucking weird. It is weird. That's up there with that Chinese, that Japanese film with the metal guy.
Oh yeah,
the
Iron Man, right?
Yeah,
Tetsuo. Yeah, Tetsuo the Iron Man.
That was just blew my mind. That one. It's like, whoa.
It reminds me of Eraserhead a lot.
Yeah.
I guess the soundtrack, it does have there's parts of Eraserhead that are so silent that sometimes you don't realize that there's music playing underneath everything. And The Shining does that as well.
Every time I watch Eraserhead, I still don't know what the hell I'm watching.
You know, or anything like that going through The Shining. It just kind of weaves in and out of the soundtrack.
I love that soundtrack so much, man.
Which
that was
one?
what was good about The Shining. When the Dr. Sleep came out, man, I was just like, just the music. I was like, oh.
It's so foreboding,
Yeah.
you know, and it's ominous music. Did you guys see the helicopter's shadow when they were driving?
I didn't notice it.
I've heard that, man. I never see it.
Because I thought I caught it, and then I see a documentary, and it's really there. And I didn't see Kubrick's face in the clouds. I have tried to find it. I can't see it.
I see Kubrick's face in every cloud.
You would.
The interesting thing about that opening theme is that I watched The Return of Dracula later that night, just like on a whim. I had just gotten the DVD on Amazon. I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen this in a long time, and I didn't realize that it's the same opening theme playing over the credits of The Return of Dracula. I forget what the classical musical piece is called.
It's in a lot of stuff. I heard the NPR thing the other day. They were
the same
movie
day
after movie after movie. It was in. It was But they make it their own in The Shining. They had all those other, the instrumentation and the noises. The
opening music is Berlioz, Gilles Ere. It's a segment from the Symphonie Fantastique.
Right.
Yeah.
Because all his music, all his movies actually do have a classical soundtrack to them. They tend to be Wendy or Walter Carlos, depending on who he is at that moment in time. Wendy now, she did work a lot with him, a lot of films with him. Clockwork Orange, 2001, Metal Gear Jacket, she's on there as well. Sort of thing. So, after this movie,
Jacket. Does everybody have the eyebrow thing going on with his movies? The looking down and the crazy look.
Well, that's actually something else I wanted to bring up because I realized, he played Randall P. McMurphy before this. Was this the beginning of creepy psycho Jack Nicholson? Because I don't remember, aside from a couple moments here and there in the Corman movies where his character lost his mind.
Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, he had just won the Oscar for it.
Crazy Jack in that. Last detail, he's Crazy Jack in as well.
He really wasn't the creepy Jack Nicholson in that, though, was he? Because I don't remember it being like that. Of course he's crazy because he's. But I just
crazy.
It's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't remember him being
crazy in that.
I don't remember the creepy, crazy Jack Nicholson as Jake Giddies. So I'm like, is this the beginning of the over the top? Jack Nicholson's just going to play a fucking crazy person and that's it. Or maybe that was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I gotta rewatch that.
I think it started with Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm. That's true too.
You might be right on that.
That's true.
Easy Rider.
The crazy person in the terror.
Easy Rider. He came
He's
off
the
as
straight
crazy,
guy, I guess.
but he wasn't really creepy. I don't think he was creepy in Easy Rider.
Was it a
Five Easy
Wolfman? He was
Pieces?
creepy. Wolf or whatever. Wolfman.
He does that. There is this.
Wolf. I remember Wolf with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
That was after this, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Rider, there's a slight craziness underneath it. He's a fun crazy, but there is a slight craziness.
Yeah, he wasn't the creepy crazy in Easy Rider.
Easy Rider. I love that movie. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I
stole my sickle.
I just recently rewatched it, and that ending is still so fucking dark and so down.
He wins an Oscar after this in '82, wasn't it, for Terms of Endearment? That's Crazy Jack as well. Batman.
I didn't think he was that crazy in that.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a point where that's all he played going forward, and
he's so good at it, though. He's brilliant at being in that job.
He's always played someone slightly unhitched, though, in everything he's done.
Well, definitely.
I can't think of anything where he does. It's probably try to think of one film that he doesn't play someone who's a little bit crazy in anything. Is there anyone that he doesn't play that in?
I know there's one.
Even The Terror, he's still got that little quality to him where he's a little
There's that little bit of a maniac underneath in The Terror.
Well, maybe he's really like that, from the reports, he's kind of crazy.
Well,
what was that movie? Oh, what's it called? Oh God, Anger Management. That movie kills me every time when they get in a fight with the Hare Krishna guys or whatever they are, the Tibetan monks.
Did you guys hear recently? He went to the Staples Center and something happened where he was trying to get to his seats, and the usher blocked him because they didn't know who he was.
Right.
Like, that's Jack fucking Nicholson.
Yeah.
He's all big now. Do you see him spill his chili?
No.
Oh, dude, it's so depressing. You probably don't want to. It's so depressing. He's sitting like right on the basketball court in the front. You know what I mean? And he's fucking obese.
Hammered?
He's straight up
Marlon Brando.
And he's got this huge Tupperware of chili, and he's eating it, and he fucking drops it, dude. It's like all over the court and everywhere.
Are you serious? How did I miss this?
You're like, dude, Jack Nicholson is a fat slob. I'm so depressed.
Oh,
he's
man,
like 90 years old now.
That bad?
He's entitled to do whatever.
Yeah.
How old is he now? He's like 85,
What's
90?
quite interesting in
No,
Jack
he ain't
Nicholson,
that old.
He's got to be. He's been around since the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
My grandson just took my phone.
If he was 20 years old, let's say 1960. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, I was gonna say he's Little Shop of Horrors was 1960.
That's true. That was a long time ago, but that depresses me. He is getting old. We're all getting old.
I mean, what's quite interesting about Jack Nicholson is in 1979, Jack Nicholson finds out on live TV that his mother is not his mother, that who he thought was his sister was his mother the whole time. He finds that out on live TV.
Really?
Took him down to Chinatown.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. That happened just before he shot The Shining. That happened the year before.
That's the interesting thing is
that would mess you up a little bit. I mean, to be in like,
oh yeah.
So they say happened to Ted Bundy.
It's literally the twist in Chinatown. It's it's literally the twist in Chinatown happened to him in real life.
I think
what's he saying when he's smacking her? She's like,
"He's
my father, he's my lover, he's my father, he's my lover," like that. And he's hitting her.
Jack Nicholson found out on TV. He didn't know anything about it. Mike Douglas goes, "Oh, we brought your mother out." And the person comes out and he goes, "No, that's my sister." He goes, "No, she's got something to tell you."
Really? How did that? I've got to look that up.
Jerry Springer moment.
Yeah, what a shitty way to.
That's a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Sort of like, putting Boris Karloff on What's My Life or whatever. And he didn't want to do that. I mean, people you should warn people. You should not do people dirty like that publicly.
Yeah, but there's a difference between Boris Karloff on This Is Your Life, where everyone's talking about how wonderful he is. And then
yeah. But he was a private man. Yeah, that is fucked up, though. I can't imagine somebody. I mean, why would he
have
do
his
that?
His mother come out and do it? I mean, what's that? What kind of family's going on there? So his grandmother, who he thought was his mother for 30 years.
Yeah, this is not the way to find out publicly with the rest of the world.
So yeah, the 4K resolution version is 146 minutes, 2 hours and 26 minutes. That's the director's
okay, I have 144 minutes on my Blu-ray, so all right.
So it's only like 2 minutes more.
All right.
Does it have the ending shot with the nurse?
Which one?
I don't think that it exists anymore. I think it's gone. But there was originally an ending where Shelley Duvall is in the hospital, and Allman comes in and says to her like something, and throws her the ball that Danny played with.
No.
You guys don't know about that? It was the original ending, and it went out to theaters that way. And he fucking actually had editors go to the movie theaters, grab the reels, cut that 2 minutes out, and paste them back together.
Huh.
And supposedly there's no footage of it. I don't know. He somehow got them all, did everyone to destroy it. I would really, really like to see it. There's still shots of it. You can see still shots of it.
I can't remember actually, because the problem with this film with the ending, and it's not a problem with the ending, but because it's such a strong ending, that I kind of remember them getting going there, and then basically seeing Jack being frozen in a maze, and then the picture, of course, is that he's been sucked in. He's part of the Overlook history. And that because that's so strong, I can't remember if it actually does cut to anything else. I want to say no, but I can't even be sure now.
Oh, you mean in your version? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's has anybody here read the novel?
Yeah, many times.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did say it. The ghosts in the novel, are they from the 20s or the 30s?
From all different years.
What?
Yeah. It's from the 80s.
Miss Massey, is that who you're talking about? The ghost in the bathtub?
Bathroom.
Is it the 20s or the 30s? That's a good question, bro. I actually don't. I would have to look it up.
In the movie, it specifically states 1921. And I was wondering that because that's the
Mrs.
year.
Massey. We'll type in Mrs. Massey and see what it says.
Because that's the year the Phantom Carriage came out, and I'm wondering if Kubrick specifically did that for that reason, or if that was in the novel, and I don't know that.
Ha!
That's interesting.
That would be, yeah.
Because I'm wondering if he just kept making, and that might be maybe what pissed King off is, yeah, you didn't do my movie, but you kept making allusions to this other movie from 60 years.
There are quite a few nods after seeing it.
Yeah. So it made me wonder if he was going for that instead of, and that may be another thing that just pissed King off. Just you're completely deviating from mine. But just I couldn't find it. I was trying to Google it to see when the if there's anything in there regarding.
She's way older in the book, man. She didn't die until 1973 in the book.
Yeah.
So he makes her way older.
Yeah,
Kubrick does,
because
if that's a reference to the ghost, that's really cool.
And another thing with the Ghost and the Overlook basically is that, and they make it seem like Jack is the one that they want, but it's not Jack they want; it's Danny. That they,
yeah,
right.
That's the whole thing of the book of Shining. It's not, and here it's not. They're not even relaying that they want Danny in the book. You know, in the movie, in Kubrick's version,
right?
There's no, it's not, the ghosts are not in it for Danny. They're kind of in it for whatever. You don't really know.
And he goes good in the book. He could kill Danny with it's a croquet mallet.
Yeah.
And just when he's gonna crush his head in, like the good Jack comes out and is like, "Run, Danny, run!" And he starts hitting himself in the face instead. So Stephen King.
And you can see what
on the movie.
I'll have to roll over that. Stanley Hotel. That's the croquet they play with, is those great big mallets. That's what they have there.
Yeah.
And you can see why that wouldn't work in the movie. And we'll discuss how well it works when we get to the 97 version.
All right.
So I guess what we'll do is any final thoughts on The Shining?
Loved it. Love it.
Iconic. It's an American iconic. It's a part of our culture. It's part of like who we are.
You don't even have to like horror to watch it. It could fill any genre, really. It could.
You see references to it everywhere, constantly.
Yeah, it's now 42 years later, it's an untouchable classic. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it may have been mixed reviews. I didn't know
they did a 2011 version either. I haven't seen that.
The 2011 version?
Yeah, I was reading about. Yeah, it was. I saw it on IMDb. The kids got my phone. Look it up at IMDb 2011.
I didn't even know there was a 2011 version.
I didn't either.
I didn't either, man. How do I not know that?
But yeah, there's
it's crazy. Stanley Kubrick's Dreamscape. It's a Dreamscape film.
Yeah,
it's nothing in it makes any sense. You just kind of sit back and just have to enjoy it because you can't wake up. And then when he wakes up, he wants you to wake up, and that's at the very end. And even after that, you don't really wake up until the final credits start rolling. You kind of just can't move through it.
Right.
And it does make sense. I mean, when you look at Kubrick's version of it, I mean, none of it lines up. You know, the scenery doesn't line up. The logistics of it don't line up. The whole hotel's a logistic nightmare, basically. I mean, it's amazing that, you know, obviously he's a strong storyboarder. He has to be able to put all this stuff in. You know, another thing that we do know is that when it came to props and stuff like this, he didn't trust set designers. He had to put everything up himself. He was very
meticulous. Yeah.
So this is And after the
Maybe.
nightmare of Barry Lyndon, I mean, beautiful to look at, but oh God, what a boring film.
I mean, people say like that, the house is a character and this is
The house is kind of a character, don't you
in
think?
this movie more than any other time I've ever seen it. The hotel itself is a character because you do feel this sense of dread. It's very ominous.
Yeah.
And I think it's all in the way Kubrick shot it because you just see like just all this space that's not occupied by people. There's nobody there. And it's just, you just feel how lonely it is in this version because everything is huge and there's nobody there. It's really, really amazing. Like I was watching it by myself anyway. My roommate was at work and I had it on and I had the lights out and everything. And I'm like, okay, I actually feel very alone watching this movie right now. I think it's the first time I've ever watched it completely alone. And when you do that and you like, I have my blackout curtains and I had the lights out and I'm like, I felt like there was nothing. It felt lonely.
They're making one for 2024 too.
Freaked me out.
They said that it's going to follow the book closer than the original Kubrick version in 2024.
That's Stephen King trying to make more money. I mean, another thing is quite interesting, I was discussing The Shining with a friend of mine who's a huge fan of The Shining. And he sits there and goes, if you look at The Shining, is that suppose it's Danny getting revenge on his dad. Danny has his secret power and he's just getting revenge on his dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
And maybe it is, and I go, well, what about the door opening? He goes, how do you know Danny didn't open the door?
Yep.
Where was Danny when the door was open? He was where was he?
He's in his mom's room being a little weirdo.
His mom's
drawing on the mirror and stuff, drawing on the door. Sitting there with his knife while his mom's sleeping.
Well, at the same time, is like, another thing is with Stanley Kubrick, you can't trust time frames.
Yeah.
You could have been doing that, and then 45 minutes later, the door opens. You know what I mean?
Grady's outside though, talking to him, opening the door for him though.
Not if Danny can make you think what he wants to think. If Danny's got special powers,
absolutely.
That's an interesting take. But would he be that mad at his father?
His father almost he broke his
dislocated his shoulder,
broke his arm. Yeah,
broke his arm. Yelled at him, and let's face it. I mean, his mom in this version of The Shining, his mom's tiptoeing around Danny the whole time.
Yeah,
she's not the typical mother that you find in movies, is she?
No, she isn't.
Yeah, I mean, you think that Jack should feel a bit guilty, so there'd be a lot more tenderness towards him, but there's not really that much tenderness towards him.
There isn't a whole lot of love and passion and fuzzy anything. So
even in the car going up there, here they are going for this exciting new beginning. That's what was supposed to be, this new beginning for this family, and it's like it's the most depressing new beginning that you're ever going to find. It's like there's not any lovey-dovey, oh I love you son or anything about it. Yeah. You got Danny's like just sitting there kind of like, afraid to say
no sex scene or hint at a sex scene even.
No, there's no sign of any. Well, they got the kid. That that's it probably. One time,
whenever Jack is in the room with Danny always looks like Jack's going to lose it with him at any moment. So that's what it feels like. There's tension all the time. That you heard this? He's going to hit me. He's going to hit me like an abused child.
You definitely get that sense when he comes into the room to get his toy truck,
his fire truck, yeah.
And Jack is like, "No, come here, son." You kind of see
I don't think I would have sat on his lap either.
There's a rumor that he's molesting him. Have you ever heard that one? I don't abide by it. But it's art, and if you want to see that in it, you can. I don't
possibly.
Have you heard that?
I mean, there's definitely abuse of some kind that has happened, and we know it because when he talks about the arm pulling,
that's another. You just there could, but the kids obviously got something wrong with him.
Where, you got this. Shelley Duvall played it more as a battered wife than Rebecca De Mornay did, but you could definitely see how Wendy in that version of it would just be like, oh well,
Wendy's quick to criticize, but Wendy never once makes a decision either.
No.
That's true too.
Go to Boulder and shovel sidewalks. That would make you happy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wendy's that kind of person that makes you make all the decisions, but then will sit there and criticize you if that decision ends up being a wrong one, even though she never gives you any freaking input whatsoever. It's like, oh, do you want, it's a bit like, should we have Chinese? I don't care. Well, okay. Well, what, do you want Italian? I don't care. Okay, well, fine. I'll order Chinese. Okay, fine. And then the egg roll's cold, and then she's complaining to you about the freaking egg roll. It's like, hello? Maybe make a fucking decision every once in a while. We wouldn't be here.
So you're talking specifically about the Shelley Duvall version, right? Because
right.
That I get that from her. Rebecca De Mornay plays her in a completely different way.
Yeah, that's totally different woman. Different woman.
But I'm saying the Shelley Duvall version. I mean, that's the kind of character that you get. Basically, someone who doesn't make a decision, but then, I mean, I look at the age of Stanley Kubrick when he made The Shining as well. There is that, post-war mother, and the father's seen a lot of, a lot of action during World War II and a lot of atrocities and stuff like this. And then the mother's basically kind of this. Women in England, anyway, had to become softer because they were working in factories, and they had to go back to the family life sort of thing. And then we had a lot of PTSD going on here in the UK. And so the mother, there was a little bit of abuse going on and all this other kind of stuff going on behind it while people are trying to rebuild their lives, because this is a country that was bombed and all the houses are swiped and London was swiped and sort of thing. And and then people trying to redefine what's going on here, and everyone's, the mother's got PTSD because she's seen her neighbors get blown up next door, and she didn't die, but basically all the kids in the family next door that you had dinner with the night before are all dead, right. So she's living through the blackout and everything that's going on. Then you got the soldiers coming home after the atrocities that they've seen, and then it's like, okay, now we're playing happy families, and then, and you got a lot of not so much as what we call physical abuse as, what we think of it today, but there is an abusive sort of thing when two people are trying to re-inhabit an area, space that they once inhabited as different people. But now they've gone through all this PTSD, both of them, living in this. And the Shelley Duvall character is like a PTSD victim, really. Always soft treading, always being careful what she says, sort of thing. Doesn't want to make her husband upset, sort of thing. But yet, same time, not very supportive of whatever decision that she's forcing the husband to take, but at the same time going along with it. But never seem very happy, but coming up with like these weird things like, oh, there's a lot of food here, that would be good, I mean, they killed, they were expecting some heavy carnivores at this hotel when these people for the winter were. Like, how much meat?
I know, they had all that friggin' meat and shit in there.
If you're feeling up to it, Dick, why don't you show Mrs.
Yeah,
go to the kitchen.
Do you know what else I found quite funny about this as well is that there's a family of 3 moving in, right? And the big Costco size, tomato ketchup, tin.
She's opening that fruit cocktail, that huge fruit fucking cocktail. Who's gonna eat that much fruit cocktail?
So like you're gonna have to eat that for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row before it goes off. Because once you open that can, that the cock starts.
That's it. Yeah.
I guess that brings us to The Shining, the miniseries, which is basically, we'll call it the Stephen King's The Shining, because that's what he likes to call it. It's a 3-episode horror television miniseries based on the 1977 Stephen King novel of the same name, and is directed by Mick Garris from King's screenplay. It is the second adaptation of King's book after the 1980 book that we just watched. It was actually on ABC. It was quick to offer King the ability to write his script for the adaptation of his book, thanks to the previous success of King's miniseries, The Stand, which was also directed by Garris. The miniseries was shot at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, King's inspiration for the novel in March 1997. Stephen King jumped at the chance to have his vision sold into The Shining due to his unhappiness with Kubrick's The Shining. The 1997 adaptation stars Steven Weber as Jack Torrance, Rebecca De Mornay as Jack's wife, Wendy, Coutland Mead with a weird overbite.
He's a cute kid. Get off the bowl haircut too.
Holland, Pat Hinkle, And classic King actors, and Pat Hingle was in it, Elliot Gould, John Durbin, Stanley Anderson, Lisa Thornhill, and Garris's wife, Cynthia, appear in supporting roles, and several notable writers and filmmakers who work in the horror genre also cameoed in the miniseries ballroom scene. King himself appearing as an orchestra conductor, hamming it up as always. Originally aired from April 27th to May 1st, 1997 on ABC, The Shining enjoyed a favorable reception when it first aired. It was a ratings hit, being in the top 20 of daily viewership. Numbers for all 3 episodes acclaimed by critics for its careful pacing, makeup, depth, sound editing, and creepy atmosphere, and won 2 Primetime Emmys and 2 Saturn Awards. However, retrospective critics have viewed the miniseries less fondly, comparing it unfavorably to Kubrick's film version. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer of The Shining, the miniseries, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, you can't fight City Hall. Just put the traps down the way you watch is what I do. Besides, every hotel's got rats. Just like every hotel's got its scandals.
Any ghosts?
The Overlook is full of edges. Last winter, there was a grotesque tragedy.
You've got a CB. And you want to make damn sure it's working good. Because that's your big out in an emergency.
Everything bad that happened here is still here.
I've had some bad dreams here myself.
No, don't scare the lady, Pete, okay?
But Jack, maybe it's good to be scared sometimes. A little bit.
They said the Overlook couldn't hurt us. But he was wrong.
Most folks who shine only shine a little. I can feel it coming off you like heat.
Daddy, oh Daddy, oh Daddy! It's her! It's her!
Hello, welcome back to the Share License Podcast. We're discussing the miniseries The Shining from 1995? 1997. Such wonderful years. Britney Spears is running around in her midriff, and yes, then we got The Shining on ABC television. So, Joe, what's your thoughts about this?
This was the first time I'd seen this version. It's funny because when I posted that I was going to watch it on Facebook, I got mixed messages. It was terrible. It wasn't that bad. It was awful. Everyone hates the kid. But,
everybody hates. I know Keith hates the kid's haircut.
Universally, it seems everybody hates the kid. I'm like, it's a child actor. Can we lay off a little bit? He's an adult now.
It's the kid's mouth.
He's hard to watch.
It's like a Gerber baby mouth with teeth sticking out of it.
Yes, it's awful.
I thought I was going to hate it going into it, and I don't know if it was really low expectations, and also liking other films by Mick Garris, because I mean he started the Masters of Horror on Showtime, which I loved.
Right.
So I did not hate this movie as much as everyone led that I would. Obviously, it's different. It's not the same as the Kubrick version, and this is the whole reason it was made.
Whole ending, everything.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I do feel like it was way too long, and this is watching it over 2 days. I was just like, there's so many stretches where it feels like nothing's happening. But when something there are moments where it's really effective, and there are moments where it's genuinely creepy. But there are also moments where I'm like looking at my clock, going, can we move this along a little bit? Because I'm like, there's literally like nothing happening for like 20 minutes at a time sometimes. Yeah. But I don't. If nothing else, it kind of made me realize, having watched Dr. Sleep, there were things that like I didn't understand as much.
Well, Tony becomes more apparent, you know.
Tony is more. You actually see Tony. This one was pretty decent with showing things instead of telling them. But it's just that when they showed them, I kind of felt like it was more effective when it was hinted at. Like, I think Tony was more effective when he was just hinted at. I think Shelley Duvall's reaction to Danny's shoulder getting dislocated was more effective than.
But it was another time, though. I mean, when The Shining was filmed, 1980, as opposed to the early 90s. Do you think maybe that had something to do with, you know?
I mean, maybe.
I think that's a Stephen King. I also think that the miniseries has a lot of Stephen Kingisms in it.
Yeah.
You know,
well, he wrote the screenplay for this.
Well, he was definitely happier with it.
Stephen King's moms are always very, very strong. His dads are always a bit problematic. Cujo.
True.
The Glick mother putting all her joys into her sons, and then when her sons go missing, that's when she falls apart, sort of thing, and she'll do anything to join her sons. But it's always the mother protecting. But Stephen King's from a single mother family background, sort of thing. So,
well, look at it. Look at the father in it to the girl. You know.
Oh my God! Too, yeah, exactly. That's like a trope that he often uses.
I mean, that's what's quite interesting about Stephen King and Steven Spielberg. I mean, surprised they haven't worked together because they kind of stare the same idiots.
They talk about it. Steven Spielberg's supposed to make a talisman.
Oh,
I mean, it's like been talked about in the books. And Steven Spielberg were supposed to make that movie, and then he ended up writing the screenplay, and Spielberg didn't pass on it, about the haunted hotel where all the Ghostbusters go to.
Right.
What's that thing? Is it something?
Rose Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be
Spielberg. That was originally a Spielberg project, and Spielberg had gotten him to write it.
I think that ended up being Craig Baxley. I think ended up directing that from I Come in Peace, if I remember correctly. I remember liking that. I saw that miniseries when it came out in the early 2000s. I remember liking that. I remember liking Kingdom Hospital. I think they're related, aren't they?
Kingdom Hospital is based on a Dutch miniseries.
Based on Lars von Trier, yeah. But was Rose Red? Rose Red was the diary of Ellen Rimbauer are the ones that are linked.
Yeah, that was kind of a piss take, not a piss take, but kind of a nod to the Winchester, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yep,
absolutely.
That's right. Kingdom Hospital. Yeah, Kingdom Hospital was Lars von Trier.
Yeah, I've gone to the Winchester House of Mystery. Oh yeah.
Or you can
I want to go there on Halloween. They do a big thing on Halloween.
So much he decided to adopt it into the Rose Red with the moving rooms.
Yeah, and I remember liking that too. I mean, with this one, I don't dislike it. I think it has its purpose. I think if you watch all three, it actually feels like a more concise story when you get to Dr. Sleep, if you watch the 97 version and the 1980 version. So yeah, I didn't I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just kind of there in the middle.
Yeah.
Like
I like
the scenes that work, the scenes that don't. Like I don't think we needed to see the woman in now 217, not 237. We didn't need to see her actually pull Danny back in. I mean, we kind of inferred already what was happening.
Why was it 217? Was that because it was in the book, right?
No, that's the original book. Yeah,
it was the original. Okay, that's right. 237 in the moon. Okay,
This is
that's where that comes from. I
haven't read that book in decades, so
I didn't see Room 237 either because I didn't want anything kind of coloring my judgment coming into this. I kind of wanted to just come in with my own thoughts and not think like, okay, there's this and this. Like the effects are bad because it's it's the 90s.
It's the age of the where the TV series were always out, and they had the picture of the person. They always showed you the picture, and then they have the name of the actor, and it was such a weird time. The 90s were kind of the hangover to the 80s, I think, but.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. I think in the grand scheme of things, I think I like it enough that I would revisit it. This probably would have benefited a little from like one of those like there were TV movies in the 90s and early 2000s where they did condense them on home video. I remember when the last Dawn movies came out, based on the Mario Puzo novels, they were 2-night miniseries. But then when the VHS tapes came out, they were 2 hours and 40 minutes, just cut out like an hour and a half. I feel like this would have been maybe better served as a 2-night thing instead of a 3-night thing, because I think then you could have trimmed a lot of the fat. I absolutely love. Melvin Van Peebles in this. I think he's awesome. I wish he would have been in it more. I wish we would have seen more of him. And Rebecca De Mornay plays Wendy in a completely different way that I did not see coming. Again, I didn't read the novel. I never read it. So
a totally different woman.
Yeah, she is a completely different woman, and I could see why King didn't like the Shelley Duvall portrayal.
Well, she was so mousy. She was like Olivia de Havilland and Gone with the Wind. She was the mousy, and then you have Scarlett, and here you got gorgeous Rebecca De Mornay, who's not mousy at all by any measure.
Oh, she is going to stand up to Steven Weber's Jack every chance she gets.
Yeah.
And I appreciate both portrayals, because obviously in the Kubrick version, that's the version that's going to work in that universe. Because you ain't standing up to Jack Nicholson.
No. Does anybody ever stand up to Jack Nicholson?
Steven Weber. That's why you shoot Steven Weber.
Yeah, the lobotomy. Yeah, with the lobotomy, it's a different story.
Well, yeah, you get Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
In this version, I never felt but this could be again just who Jack is, Jack Nicholson rather, who Jack Nicholson is. I really got to watch this now because I got Jack Nicholson playing Jack Torrance. And I can't say Jack Torrance because that could be either one. The way Nicholson portrays him, it might just be Nicholson. Nicholson's creepy the entire time. Yeah, Weber, I never got that sense like he was actually like he would get angry, but he never gave off like that feeling like he could actually hurt you.
Yeah,
I feel like he's
kind of, yeah, he's not. I think what was it? I think Rebecca De Mornay is the one that got Weber chosen for the role because I guess Stephen King said he was going to wait another 18 years. They couldn't come up with a Jack Torrance. He was getting pissed. They couldn't find somebody.
They wanted Gary Sinise, and he was going to do
or Tim Daly.
I think
Gary Sinise.
You went into doing Forrest Gump instead.
Gary Sinise has that 1,000-yard stare too. That he probably
does. Gary Sinise would have been a great Jack.
Nothing against Steven Weber. The guy was the guy's a fantastic performer, but yeah, I just don't. I feel like he was kind of miscast in this because I never felt like he could actually like be a threat.
He's prettier than Jack Nicholson. That's probably one of the reasons. Jack Nicholson just looks demonic. He does. Even on a good day, he looks demonic.
I think what you have to do is in this Shining, you kind of have to separate
exactly
two different things. One is Kubrick's version of The Shining, which is basically where he's kind of used the name and the place and came up with his own story. Where this is a faithful adaptation of the book. This is the book word for word. And I have to sit there and say that the Jack in the book kind of fits this Steven Weber good guy character, which is the basic Stephen King trope of the good guy character. He's the good guy, something bad's happening and he's slowly turning even though he's fighting that turn sort of thing. So what we got is here and then like the book, the Jack Torrance character doesn't become mean, he becomes possessed.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's definitely that in this version.
And that's what you're kind of getting. That's the reason why he kind of goes all demon looking at the end and all that sort of thing. That's him being possessed and after being beaten up by him.
Right.
I didn't know Garris directed The Stand too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was for a while. He was Stephen King's like go-to director.
I did not know that.
So what's scarier, a father possessed or an actual bad father? You know what I mean? Like,
well, they made it look like he was
looking at. I think that a father that's bad is like the worst thing that there is, probably in one of the worst things in the world. You know what I mean?
But are you looking at that through the same eyes I am, where I'm looking at it as a realist because demonic possession doesn't actually happen? It's not real. So
Right.
yeah, there's actually real.
You have not met my ex-husband.
but there's real, like, legitimately bad people in the world. So to a degree,
there are evil people, as we all know.
Well,
I'm just saying Jack Nicholson looks like a demon. That's all. It's that face. I mean, even when he smiles politely, he still looks like Jack Nicholson.
I think this is one of the things that defines horror as opposed to dark fantasy.
Excuse me?
I think that this is one of the things that shows the line between horror and dark fantasy. In the dark fantasy world, you have this good protagonist almost who's possessed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas in the horror world, it's like a bad person doubled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have a tendency to think, like, even in slasher movies, I have a tendency to think that it's more interesting. Michael Myers is more interesting when they don't have all the cult stuff. I feel like when it's just he's just a bad person who got out and did bad things, I think is more interesting than somebody who's possessed by the Thorn cult. And I just kind of, and that could, again, this is just me, and what I like and what I find interesting. Everybody could disagree with me. And obviously, you guys that read the novel are going to have a completely different take on this than I am, because I wasn't privy to how Jack Torrance is in the novel, except for this movie, which from what I understand, is the closest.
I actually think that this Jack Torrance, the Steven Weber, was actually more of a meaner drunk that really did beat on his son.
Yeah. Well, they make that version. They made that clear in this version.
Well,
yeah, very clear. And they actually used the Stanley Hotel.
The thing is that when the Jack in the book and that the dislocation of the shoulder is an isolated incident and it never happened before that and never happened since that.
Yeah.
And if you notice, that's the reason why the Danny in the miniseries and the book, there's a loving he's looking forward to seeing his dad. He's waiting for his dad to get home. Because it happened once. If it happened over a period of time, trust me, you wouldn't be on the swing waiting for daddy to just come up.
No.
You'd be hiding from him going, oh God, what kind of mood is he going to be in?
Right.
And the alcoholism, it seemed like in the book, the alcoholism is more pointedly towards his verbal demeanor against his wife. So when he got drunk, he used to just be a bit cruel with some of the things he said. He wasn't very happy, but when he wasn't drinking, he was very kind.
He was just a mean drunk.
It was a good thing. He was a mean drunk that was basically unfortunate, and he wasn't in control of himself. But when he was drunk, he was the perfect teacher, the perfect everything, and that's the way he is. It's the drink that's the demon that would provide this alternative personality.
Right.
So
I felt bad for this one more than Jack Nicholson. This guy got a little more sympathy or empathy from me. I don't know why.
Well, with Nicholson, yeah, go ahead.
This one, what you have a Jack that because of his action, because of his alcoholism and everything like that, that basically he's lost everything, and basically he's trying to provide for his family. So he takes his winter job in a way to sit there and like, I got to provide for my family. This is going to provide for short term, but that way I can write my play.
Yeah.
Because this will sit there and put me as the father figure who can support and supply for his wife, sort of thing. But when it does, and then basically how he gets sucked into the whole Overlook situation is not through the ghost and stuff like that. It's through the activity of the ghost. But then they go, he finds the book downstairs, and basically he's, I'm going to write about it, and that's how he gets sucked into it. So it's not, so there's no craziness to him anyway. And as he gets sucked into it, they start to believe, oh, you're such a great writer, you're such a great person, you're such a great this. If you did this, you can do this, and sort of thing like this, because they're enticing him because they're making it seem that he's who they want. That's what they're choosing him, and that's what the Overlook wants is him. But in all fact, they're after Danny. They're using the fathers basically. Once they get Danny, Jack and his wife they're not even gonna be ghosts. They're gonna be nothing. They're gonna be dead. They're not gonna be part of the Overlook when they die. It's only gonna be Danny's gonna be part of the Overlook.
It's his power. It's his yeah.
Apparently, was it Cortland Mead's acting coach said there was a lot of paranormal weirdness going on when they were doing the shooting at the Stanley, which I wouldn't doubt.
I would.
You go away. Take you ghost hunting one of these days.
But the thing is that basically it's Danny that wakes the ghost up. It's Danny who's waking the ghost up. It's his shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have that power, you're not seeing anything.
But then again, we had Weebles' character. He shined. So why didn't the hotel wake up?
Like a picture book, and he tells Danny, "I see it like a picture book." And
that's right. It's like a picture book. Yeah, that's like a movie. Okay, yeah, you're right.
You don't bring it to life. The more you look at it, the more you bring it to life. The more that you think it's real, that you have the power to turn against it.
Yeah,
but Danny's like or Charlie anyway. Danny is a prototype of the Stephen King child with superpowers. And
I like how the couple is pretty in this version,
and then they had no control whatsoever. That's what we got with
Stephen King. Made sure this was an attractive couple too.
Oh yeah, Rebecca De Mornay looks amazing.
There wasn't a guy in college that did not salivate or just dream of Rebecca De Mornay, especially in Risky Business.
Until they saw the hand that rocks the cradle and realize.
I still love her in that movie, though.
I want to make love on a train.
Yeah.
She was good in the remake of Mother's Day. I liked her in that. Not a great movie.
I haven't seen that. I gotta see that.
I haven't. The horror movie Mother's Day they remade?
They remade it.
Oh wow! I didn't even know that.
It's what's his name? Was it Darren Bousman did him?
I didn't know they remade that. I love the old one. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I'll warn you ahead of time. It's a decent movie, but it's totally different.
Totally different.
It's almost
well, aren't they always? You know,
there are segments in it that let's think of it. You know,
well, oddly enough, I was actually kind of surprised that you actually picked this for remake because I don't feel like this is so much a remake of
as a totally different movie.
It's a totally different adaptation of the novel.
Yeah. The reason why we have it remake because basically we're looking at something that's based on one book, and now we got a director who's artistic in his own way, coming at what he thinks it is, and now we have the script writer. This is my version of the movie, and basically what we got is the same. We got the same.
Well, that's Stephen King's "fuck you" to Kubrick, basically.
It's not Stephen King's "fuck you" to Kubrick. It's Stephen King wanting a faithful adaptation of his book, where by this time he's making enough money that he could demand a faithful.
He could actually do it. Yeah,
and I mean, who's going to turn it down? The TV networks aren't going to turn it down.
No, I mean he was gold back then for
I
TV
think Stephen
series.
King miniseries at this point in time were probably the biggest, made for TV event movies that you can think of. So
the 90s were like the miniseries event. That was like that's what reigned supreme was the miniseries.
By the way,
the Thornburg Roots. You know
what's up?
I said the 80s as well. Roots, the Thornburgs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thornbirds. Oh, North and South. Oh my God, I loved all of them. I loved the Thornbirds. That was excellent.
The thing
Thornbirds,
this is probably the best way to do a faithful adaptation of your stuff because if you got The Shining's a thick book. It's not a small book whatsoever.
No, The Stand was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. That was like I should have got paid to read that.
I attempted The Stand so many times when I was a teenager, and it's just
this was enough for me, buddy.
I don't know. Stephen King's I like The Stand. It's like
I like it, but I
silly
couldn't
comic
do it again.
book. It's written so easy, and Stephen King has this way of
I love his.
bringing you
I
in
love
and
his
drawing you
older
in, and
stuff.
like, I don't know. He's
I
classic.
love his older books, but I just can't get anything new lately.
It's kind of just childish in a way. I don't really read his work anymore. I can't even remember the last thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I haven't read The
don't even
Shining
know.
in decades. I can say
I reread it
decades.
every few years. I love that book.
Maybe I'll pick it back up again.
Stephen King has a Forrest Gump kind of way about his writing. Basically, it's someone on a rocking in a rocking chair and telling you a homegrown story that has horror elements into it. That's the Stephen King way of writing, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's, and as you notice in the miniseries, there's a lot of Stephen Kingisms in it. I'm missing your kissing. This is very the family dynamics are basically, it's like, the family dynamics are there.
He does like the strike. I wonder if he had daddy issues.
Writer, the writer who's disillusioned, or the person.
Did he have a bad childhood with his father? Because it's always was he just not in the picture?
There was no father.
There was no father. He was just gone.
Stephen King is the horror equivalent of Spielberg.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good analogy. That'll work.
If you look at every Spielberg film, it's basically the same kind of family dynamics.
Poltergeist,
children,
E.T.
E.T.
Yeah, true.
Poltergeist. Probably the only time but that's not him directing it. But it's probably the only time the family's together. You have mother and father and children. And he only produced that anyway.
Which Poltergeist?
Yeah, Toby Hooper, same guy who did Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
Poltergeist is like the
right.
quintessential American movie to me, man.
What, Poltergeist?
Yeah, because it's like the little kids stuck in the TV set.
Yeah.
Right? The fear of the swimming pool. They run out and they're like jumping in the pool looking for that. That's like a classic.
That's something
fear.
I would do.
Tree falls on the house. Everyone's dealing with that all the time. The tree falls through the house into the window, and then the whole place is built on a burial ground.
Well, it was a burial ground. Then he had those people underneath. What was that guy? What's his name? Julian. God is in his holy temple.
Yeah, because all of America is built on
I could sing that whole song.
On a graveyard of fucking peoples.
Well, I'm
not afraid of dead people. It's living people.
You get the suburban setting as well. Basically your neighbors right literally next door that your remote's affecting their TV and vice versa.
If I'd have known that
right
shit was going on in the 80s, I would have fucked with my neighbors so bad. I had no idea that stuff had that with the clickers.
Oh, well, suburb. I mean, you got to remember what
modern.
New houses that were built in the 70s and 80s are shit. I mean, there's no soundproofing whatsoever in these houses.
No.
But they were all brand new and modern and shiny. Like they remade Poltergeist and they made it an actual Gothic haunted house.
Did they remake Poltergeist?
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
The whole movie is supposed to be like this suburban, perfect world.
How did that one get by me?
Oh, thank God, you're lucky.
It was a
you're
good
lucky.
remake. I didn't watch it because I knew it was gonna. I knew I wasn't gonna like. But
I hate Poltergeist 3. I hate it. I can't do it. I've tried. I've watched it all. I like Nancy Allen.
Yeah, but the Poltergeist is not what they were planning to make. She died.
She died in it. I know that. You could tell the poor little thing was sick too. But
the old man died as well. That didn't help.
That's just weird. They had so many deaths around the Poltergeist movies, but
yeah, and the daughter from the first one,
she murdered by her boyfriend, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
While the movie is playing in the background, apparently, I don't know how much that's.
I think that's an embellishment.
No. What happened was that basically,
you non-believer.
I was reading from Dominic Dunn, who's her grandfather. That's how he got into writing Vanity Fair about crime sequences because of the death of his granddaughter, Dominique Dunn. And his article in Vanity Fair said that basically the movie was premiering on TV, on cable TV. So basically, she was out in the garden, sort of thing, and basically, it's like everyone in the neighborhood was playing it, and it said the police report were saying that while she was being strangled, the soundtrack, they could hear the soundtrack. She could hear the soundtrack being played while she's dying because.
Oh my God!
Are you serious?
I think that's because how is he going to?
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up just to prove Joe wrong.
Dominic held a party at her house. All her friends came over because they were watching Poltergeist because they're going to watch Poltergeist. Her boyfriend, who she just broke up with, showed up. He was, "Can I speak to you in the back of the garden?" So as the movie's starting, he's choking her to death, and that's how.
Wow, are you serious?
That part, yeah, like the idea that she's hearing the soundtrack as she's being strangled. I don't know about that. That sounds like an ability.
I'm going to say it's absolutely true.
The thing
I'm not calling bullshit yet.
What happened was,
we're never going to know if that part's true or not.
Somebody
I can feel it in my gut. If I know it in my gut, then it's true.
There you go.
Isn't that what George Bush used to say?
From Matthew's lips to whoever's ears.
The funny thing about it is that her friends went out while the movie was just starting and going, "Dominic, are coming in," and he's strangling her, and they were trying to pull him off, and then, or by that time, her windpipe was crushed.
Oh my god!
They said the back door was open. They didn't hear her scream or anything. So it could be possible. I don't know how big her house is or how big her garden is or how loud the TV is, but it's quite odd. Well, it's like the little boy said from Poltergeist as well,
Really? What happened to him?
He died. That's why he didn't come back for the third one. He died before the third one came out. He got run over by the family car.
He did?
Yeah, they parked the car on that hill, and they're supposed to put it in park, but it wasn't in park, and the car rolled over him or something.
Man, talk about bad luck.
Same thing that happened to Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
Everybody goes sometime.
I don't hate Poltergeist 3 either because I can't, it's a miracle.
Hate it, but I just can't get into it.
Miracle that fucking movie got made at all. And I'm sure, having seen other Gary Sherman movies, like Raw Meat and the one we just covered recently on the podcast, Dead and Buried.
That's a great film.
Having seen a lot of his other movies, I think had these circumstances, had the circumstances not played out like this, where like his fucking cast is dead before the movie's made, I think it probably would have been. It probably would have been a much better film. I mean, the fact that it got made at all is a miracle in this case because everything that could possibly go wrong was going wrong on that.
I think
that's just wild.
That the actor dies before the finishing of it. I can't think of one case where they've ever been great. I mean, Brainstorm with Natalie Wood, where you have to show the back of her head through most of the movie, and and there's other movies that the actors died and they tried,
The Crow.
I can't think of
The Crow.
The
Crow's actually, I think, a really good movie, despite Brandon Lee dying.
I love The Crow.
Plan 9 from Outer Space. Lugosi died, and
I like Plan 9 from Outer Space. No matter what anybody says.
His dentist with the cape up.
Yeah,
that's why they did it. That's right.
Taller than Bella as well, isn't he?
That's right. Looked like Vampire was kind of getting on too.
She had nothing to do with it.
But the miniseries, The Stand, is basically a really faithful adaptation of the book, sort of thing.
It was.
Here, the animals and so on and so forth. So unlike Kubrick's version of The Stand, this is basically like we're gonna do word for word, and this is what we got, sort of thing.
I wonder
how like that they use the Stanley. I do. I've just that inspired King.
That's actually one of the things that I felt made the movie weaker because I didn't feel the isolation as much with this because it's smaller than what
other
Kubrick.
Movie?
Than what Kubrick, Kubrick was using sets,
right?
So he's got that advantage.
Stanley's huge.
Have you been to Stanley?
Yeah, but on a set, there's no roof. You can have what I'm saying.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Have you been to the Stanley anyway? The original.
I almost did. I was about 10 years ago. This woman I was hanging out with in Colorado, we went and stayed at the Oxford, and I asked for the murder-suicide room at the Oxford Hotel.
I would have done that too.
And we wanted to go to the Stanley Hotel, but it was just like way too far out from where we were in Denver.
Estes Park is enormous. A lot of people don't realize how big Estes Park is.
Yeah, Stanley Hotel is only 10 minutes from Estes Park. It's not in the middle of nowhere.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, you come to it's basically like it's a hotel, and then basically within a 5-minute drive you're in Estes Park.
Well, you got like Red Feather. There's all kinds of places. There's all kinds of little towns and stuff all around there.
I don't
But it's
know.
right next to Estes Park. I mean, it's not that far.
Maybe that's
You know
not
what I mean?
why.
It's
I don't
not
know.
beautiful there.
in the middle of nowhere. Like you
I
would
still wouldn't want to ride up that road again. I mean, I just that kills it for me. You have to sedate me or get me hammered before I get on that friggin'
Well, it
road.
depends what way you're going. It depends what way you're going to the Stanley Hotel. Because if you go through Boulder,
Right.
you don't have that winding road.
That's where Trail Ridge Road. We picked it up going through Boulder. We went up through that way,
Okay.
and that's where Trail Ridge Road is. The road of death.
far
All I
through
know,
that
it was
road.
the road of death. I've never forgotten that road. Never.
I've never.
There's another way through Boulder, I think.
I remember why we didn't go. If it wasn't the distance, there was some reason though.
Because you got to go up by that big river. I can't remember there's that river that you go by.
Colorado. The Colorado
Yeah, because my
River.
daughter dropped her toys in there and just like, you're fucked. I'm not going in there and getting it. It's over. Beautiful country though. God, it's so pretty.
But I didn't feel like the hotel didn't feel like it was that big and that cavernous in this. And I think maybe that's also again in comparison to the Kubrick version, and that's why I'm thinking that way.
Look, we've had established one thing. Kubrick is a brilliant at being an illusionist, you know.
Definitely.
I think they also suffer from the TV miniseries feel as well, because there's the film quality as well. It has that TV feel to it. Like
totally.
Everything's overlit.
Doing Stephen King has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
You also have there's hard to get scope in a TV miniseries as well. Even with The Stand. I mean, you're watching The Stand that he did previous to that. It's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, or even it.
Right.
And you're kind of watching them, and it does have that gloss. There's this glossy filming about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Glossiness to it.
I know
Even
what
when
you're
it's
saying
dark,
without
it
you
looks like
saying
someone's
it.
taken the pledge and like shined it, sort of thing over the top of it. So
Like as far as it's effective at points, and I like that about it. I liked. A lot of people were saying that the band leader thing, they didn't like that. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
That's maybe one of the highlights to me.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't have any issue with a lot of the stuff that people told me that like I was going to hate. Like obviously it's 1997, so the fire hose isn't going to look great because they just didn't have the technology to do it then. The plants coming alive, the lions, that wasn't going to look great because again it was 1997.
Yeah. I was living in a van when it came out, and I really went out of my way to try to watch them. It was like kind of a big deal.
I also think it's very, very rare that a novelist writes a screenplay based on their stuff and it's very successful. I can only name a couple things. John Irving with Cider House Rules.
John Lindquist. Let the right one in.
Let the right one in. That's about it, really. I mean, it's very rare that because I think
William Blatty did the screenplay to The Exorcist, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he did. William Peter Blatty did do the screenplay to The Exorcist.
Yeah,
and then
the directing. The book. Did you guys ever read the book?
Yeah, I read the book. It's a detective. It's a police procedural more than a.
Which is why Exorcist 3 is the way it is.
Yes,
but he's not very good at writing screenplays. Name me a good screenplay that he's done.
Stephen King? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he doesn't write very good screenplays.
That was something I was going to say. Is how much control do you guys think Mick Garris actually had on this?
He's got his horror stuff and he's got his fantasy shit. I think his fantasy shit is just too crazy to even be transferred in the film. But like Cujo, horror, pretty simple. Pet Cemetery, horror, pretty simple. Carrie, horror, it's real simple.
Yeah, I like my stuff grounded in some kind of reality sometimes. Like when you start going cosmic with a lot of the stuff, I'm like, you kind of lose me a little with it. And this is totally a preference thing. Like
The Color of Space.
I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way.
Color of Space was carried by Nicolas Cage going back.
Color of Space is awesome.
Matthew, you love Nicolas Cage, don't you?
That's what that is, man. That's Nicolas Cage just fucking going absolutely batshit crazy, and I love that about it.
I mean, the thing is, if I mention these screenplays to you, you'll find out how the miniseries works into them. They have all this, Creep Show. He wrote the screenplay for that. Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet, at least Maximum Overdrive.
He directed Maximum Overdrive too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Pet Cemetery, Golden Years, Sleepwalkers, the Stand TV series, Michael Jackson Ghost, The Shining, Storm of the Century, Rose Red, Kingdom Hospital, Desperation, Heads Will Roll, A Good Marriage.
I forgot about Storm of the Century.
Lizzie's Story, and The Circle Closes.
But Sleepwalkers, by the way, is fantastic.
I concur. I loved it. I
like the film as well, but it does suffer. It's a fun film, but it does suffer from the Stephen King ism.
Monotony.
Well, it's just a Stephen King movie. It's a Stephen King movie.
Yeah, that's a whole genre in itself, isn't it?
I like to see that as a Mick Garris movie, though, because I think, like Keith said, maybe the screenplay isn't the strongest, but holy shit, what a fantastic movie it is! Just because Mick Garris just goes balls to the walls on that, and it's just awesome.
I mean, I like Sleepwalkers, but if you look into the script, Stephen King has Stephen King-isms. Slim Waltman writes horror. That's how I think of Stephen King. Slim Waltman writes horror. All American, all about it. And it's a 1940s, 1950s America seen through an AIDS lens. That's Stephen King.
That's basically it, yeah.
And I mean, the miniseries. I mean, I find interesting about the miniseries is that it's good to have. If you don't want to read the book and you can't be asked to read the book, you just watch the miniseries. It's kind of everything's there. If you want to watch the film, and you don't care much about the book, you get the Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah.
Is it that perfect to the novel?
It's word for word.
Wow.
And it takes a long time I love the book The Shining. I think it's fantastic. It's one that, I mean, Stephen King's top books for me are Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Shining. They're like the top. And then they kind of go mix. They kind of mix back and forth. The Stand. I mean, the thing is, the Salem's Lot, The Shining, and Carrie have good endings.
Yeah.
Not perfect endings, but they had great endings for Stephen King. After that, once he does The Stand's great for the first half of it. Once they get the Boulder, it goes to shit. You know what I mean?
I'm a big Pet Cemetery fan. That's a big one I really like.
Oh, yeah,
as well, and that's why I say that after this, then we had hit and miss Stephen King. Pet Cemetery is a good book. Tommy Knockers is. I don't know what the hell he's thinking about that.
I liked it. I'm not the only person I know. I think
I can't. I still can't.
It's H.P. Lovecraft's influence.
I still try. I keep trying.
Bit.
The Pet Cemetery that he wrote the screenplay to, is it the 80s version?
Yeah, he didn't do the new one. The new one's all different. Did you see the new version?
I haven't seen it.
I loved it. I thought it was great, but he makes the older girl become the zombie instead of the little kid.
The one thing that struck terror in my heart was little Gabe. I want to play with you, Daddy. Just like, I literally vaulted off the floor to jump in my bed that night because it freaked me out. That, like in Trilogy of Terror, that little guy was going, By
the way, the band in this version of The Shining, there's the GC everywhere. Apparently, that's supposed to stand for Gage Creed. Apparently, Stephen King, I saw a credit, I don't remember where it was, is credited as Gage Creed in The Shining.
I did not notice that.
So
interesting.
They make no reference to it in the movie. But somewhere in a credit I read somewhere, it said Stephen King is Gage Creed, and I didn't know what it was until I saw him as the band leader. And I saw GC on the drums, like, Gage Creed is the band leader. That's a nice little touch.
And I didn't catch that. That's a good catch.
Hamming it up like he does whenever he gets a cameo.
Yeah,
what's that?
I'm fine with that.
He's great in the Pet Cemetery movie when he's the preacher.
I always like his cameos because he's always over the top, and I think it's.
I like his cameos.
Uncle Steve, he's like part of my life, of our lives.
It takes me out of it. I feel like Quentin Tarantino, or it's like, why are you stop putting yourself in stuff? Or M. Night. M. Night does the same thing. It's like, stop putting yourself in your movies. I'm enjoying it now. It's you. It's like, stop it. You know what I mean?
You're not Alfred Hitchcock.
I just watched Old recently.
Well, Hitchcock is in it for like a brief second.
Yeah, you got to look for him sometime. It's like, where's Waldo with him?
He'll be in the newspaper ad and stuff.
Yeah. Fuck, what was I going to say a second ago? But yeah, I like King when he's over the top. Oh, his cameo in It Chapter 2 is the only good thing about that movie.
Yeah, he was great in that.
You mean the newer one?
The newer one. The newer one. The first half of the newer one, It Chapter 1, I think is really, really good. The fucking sequel is one of the worst.
I agree.
That's because
the Chinese restaurant was a little crazy.
Stephen King, great beginning, great middles. I want you to get past the middle of a Stephen King book.
Well, he didn't put the orgy in, man. What? He didn't put the orgy in it.
The orgy's never going to be seen. It's never going to happen.
But that's in the first part anyway. That's not in the second part. That's in the first part,
right?
I mean,
but he shows up and talks about how much Stephen King's, how much the endings of this writer's books suck.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, look at.
He's probably going to listen to this one podcast too.
Well, I mean, if he ever came on here, I'll be honest with him. I mean, fine. If he asks me for my opinion, I'm gonna be honest. But I mean, that's what it is. If you read it, if you watch the original miniseries, what's the best thing about it?
The first half.
Yeah,
the first half.
Georgie getting killed.
Georgie, yeah.
I think he's a better short story writer than he is.
Some people are good.
I love his short stories, and I that's actually what I really. And when he releases a book of new short stories, I do. That's what I read. I'll read his new short stories, and
you can tell when Stephen King's in trouble with his ending because the book becomes overlong.
I wonder. You think it's because of the length of it? That's why he's starting to like. I got to end this.
He said you should never know your ending. He's like anyone who knows how they're going to end a book is a fool. As a quote from his creative writing book.
But do you know how John Irving writes his books? He writes the ending and the beginning, and then goes like that. That's how John Irving writes. I think it works for him. I'm not sure everything, but some people can work that way through. I don't think there's a right way of writing. I think what works for you works. I think with Stephen King is that he has great ideas, but what happens is that he has these strings, and then the strings get knotted towards the middle, which they become very exciting, and then he has to try to unknot these. And then what happens is that while he's trying to unknot these, he's tying himself into bigger knots. It's a bit like undoing Christmas lights that have been struggled off. If you pull it the wrong way, basically they just become tighter, and you're just making more of a mess.
Right.
Excellent analogy. Perfect.
And that's what I find with some of Stephen King's books. Carrie, I love the ending of Carrie. I think Carrie is a fantastic book. I mean, it's probably one of the first documentary fiction books out there for its time period.
Right.
The Salem's Lot is fantastic, but it would have been better if they didn't have the tag on ending where these vampires have found them in Mexico of all places. Like, what? The sun all the time? I mean, what's that about? But it's great until you get to that point when they left in Salem's Lot.
That was kind of abrupt. They ended up in Mexico killing vampires, but then I started thinking, what was that movie? Tarantino's movie? Was it
Dusk Till Dawn?
Yeah, that's what it makes me feel like they picked up at when I watched that movie.
The same thing with the book The Shining. The Shining is an excellent book, and then we get the tack on ending where they're in Florida living with Dick Halloran, and they're at the pool. That's all they're good.
Fishing.
And you're like, what's this? They could just gotten a snowcat and driven off and leave it. That's what he could have done. That would have been
like that. That was like an epilogue, Yeah. At least
some kind of closure.
Yeah.
Some kind of closure, but it just kind of makes you wonder why Dick Halloran's supporting Wendy and Danny and her son at the local pool.
Like some of his later books that I read would be like Desperation and Cell, about the cell phones. And both of those, I enjoyed reading them, but they should have been short stories. It's like there's a cool idea, like you're saying, and then he just goes on and on and
I
on.
love Desperation.
It turns into good versus evil, and it's just ridiculous.
And explaining what the fucking tack is. So, it's like, I love the Desperation. I love it. It's fantastic. And now he goes, now time to tell you what's going on, what this is. It's like, oh no.
Totally.
And then the way they get out of it, it's just like, what are you, Steven, to shut up, to stop. Let them all die. What are you doing?
Yes. Stop, right?
It's a bit like it's a bit like his, Wizard and Glass series. I forgot what that's called.
Yeah, I never read those. I know what you're talking about. Wizard and something.
The drawing of the three and all the other stuff, and it just goes on and on. And that's
I was never into the Gunslinger that much. It's too fantasy for me. I read the first 2 or 3.
I liked it.
I love the ending of Needful Things. I mean, the movie's a shit version because it's a watered down version of it. But I love the way that he just blew up the whole town of Castle Rock, and that was it for Maine. You know what I mean? That was great. And especially when you got Nettie out there with her meat cleavers and the other old lady, and they're fighting over the laundry, and they're just meat cleavering each other to death, and it's like, you're sitting there, and then the ending was a good ending. So he does do it occasionally, but in short stories, he doesn't write himself into that corner. Children of the Corn, he doesn't write himself into that corner.
Right. Survivor Type's probably one of my favorite. You know that one?
Yeah.
The heroin dealer ends up eating himself.
Even the Langoliers.
I never read that one.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Oh, wait, I did read that one. Yeah.
I mean, the miniseries try to tack on some kind of weird ending where they're trying to get out, but they don't get out in the original short story or all that sort of stuff. And I have to say that he does do better when he's writing about when does not have a supernatural tendency to it. Misery doesn't have that. Dolores Claiborne doesn't really have that. And
I love both of those. I liked Thinner though. Thinner was one of my favorites. Wasn't very long.
I think he does okay nowadays because now he's writing murder mysteries. That's what he does.
Right.
Now.
I like it when he's more nihilistic. That's when he seems to be really on it. You know what I mean? Like in Pet Sematary or something, or even in The Shining, because the father dies. Even you know what I mean? I love the more when he goes darker, and I think he tries to pull back. I think he wants to go dark, and now he's got this image: his Uncle Steve, Grandpa, and he's got to be more dark fantasy.
Leave it up to his son.
And he just starts meandering, and
You also got to remember that Stephen King in the 80s, up until he got hit by that car in 1996, he was an alcoholic. He doesn't remember writing anything. He was coming out.
That just blows my mind that somebody can write a frigging novel this thick and not have any recollection of doing it. I mean, what kind of brain? I know that.
Cocaine, dude.
I don't
think
get
about
it.
it. Think of how much you talk on doing that stuff, man.
Yeah. And what we have here with The Shining is Stephen King, one of the last books he remembered writing his own adaptation to it.
So funny.
But yeah, I mean, The Shining, I mean, I do have to, I mean, for being word for word, I like the miniseries because it's word for word, because it's quite nice to have a testament to the book for that, for like prosperity's sake. But I have to sit there and he changed the ending of the book for this. We got the graduation sequence now where basically
Oh, I know, it's so lame.
That basically his future self was
Tony,
his imaginary friend, to warn him, and then he grows into his future self, and then he gets to see his father, like happy ending sort of thing, and go there.
Then he turns into Dr. Sleep, and he has a purpose in life.
But see, in the original book, The Shining, the father figure, anyway, in The Shining figure, after everything that goes on, they have that heartfelt moment, and the boiler's going to blow, and basically it's all stopped. Basically, the whole thing settles on that. Basically, keep Jack busy, because we don't need Jack to know that the boiler is going to blow up. So keep him busy, that way we can escape.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's what the book centers on. And so basically, get that loving sequence. So when they go off, Danny knows that his father loves him, and that basically was the overlook that did this to his father. She didn't really need that tacked on thing that Stephen King put on at the end of his own miniseries.
Yes, but this is the age of Jane Seymour and the miniseries. Okay, we were a different mindset back then,
If you watch, I'm sorry, but if you watch Hollywood Wives, if you watch North and South, you watch Scruples, you watch The Thornbirds and stuff like this, you don't get small-teeth tacked on endings. That's a Stephen King.
Yeah, you're right.
We got the same thing in Stephen King's The Stand. We got this homecoming at the end of The Stand that was not even in the book. Basically,
I know what the fuck was that last episode about?
I'm not talking about the new Stand. I'm talking about the original miniseries.
Oh, okay. Well, I liked the original. I didn't understand that last episode in the new one.
It sounded like they're part of a bread commercial in Midwest America. That's what happens, and that's not what happens in the book. At the end of the book, Las Vegas blows up, and they're walking home, and that's where the book ends. But we got another Stephen King.
Take us home, Mother. Who was that? Cicely Tyson played Mother Abigail.
Well, I mean, that's The Stand is a great book, and it's like the first part of The Stand is fantastic. The second part of the series, you're like, no, there we go, good versus evil. Okay,
it's the prototype for everything he did afterwards.
You're right. You're right, Matthew. It is.
He's still complaining about The Shining. Did you see it? It's been a few years now, but he wrote that book, The Outsider.
Yeah.
And there's a line in there where they're like, "Oh, it's a Stanley Kubrick movie's coming on. Oh no, it's The Shining. This is stupid." And they turn the channel, and you're like, "Really, dude?" After all these years,
is mad.
You're
he was
still
mad.
bitching about it.
40 years later.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it made him so much money and got him so much publicity. Any good, good or bad is publicity.
If Stephen King's still going on about Kubrick's version of The Shining, I mean, I think if Stanley Kubrick was all alive, he just had to say 2 words to Stephen King: maximum overdrive.
I like that one. I know a lot of people hate it. I loved it.
Writing his own screenplay and filming his own work.
I know, but I really liked that movie. I didn't read the book, but I liked the movie.
The short story's better.
Just a little short
story.
Well,
the books are always better. The short stories, for the most part, are always better. But you can't adapt everything to the screen.
I'm just in there saying that Stephen King had. I'm sorry, but you can't cut him some slack here. He had the time, the space, the money, the situation, and things thrown at him where he could put his money where his mouth did, and he wasn't able to do it.
Okay, point taken.
To be clear, we're talking about Maximum Overdrive.
Right, Maximum Overdrive.
I could have done a better job. So fine. Here's the money. Here's your. You do whatever you want. You can make your movie, and we're going to give you $10 million to make a film, right? And we're going to show it across all the multiplexes of America. So he picks out Maximum Overdrive, which is a 6-page film, turns this into a movie. And the best thing is Lisa Simpson crying at the back of the station wagon at one point.
I liked it. I like the big bad mean clown truck. Okay.
But do you like it because it's a good movie, or do you like it because it's such a train wreck that you can't take your eyes off it?
It might be either or. Because, there's just some movies, I mean, like rainy day movies, like you'll put on. Like if you see Christopher Lee, who's fantastic, you put certain movies on, it's like, fuck it, I'll watch it. There's nothing else on. But I mean, it's awful, but it's doable.
Well,
it's entertaining.
You get after that's going, what the fuck am I doing? I haven't done anything this bad since I was in that movie with my girlfriend with Demi Moore called Wisdom. So that's like I'm making some bad decisions here just for the money. I need to change how I'm doing my work. I'm
amazed. Yeah, I'm amazed Maximum Overdrive didn't completely derail his career, because he had quite a few hits after that.
Well, he had Wisdom. I think that kind of went, and then after that, he kind of pulled it back up, didn't he, with Young Guns and things like that, didn't he? So
Young Guns, The Mighty Ducks. Yeah, he ended up having a pretty decent career. Now he's directing.
Yeah,
Repo Man's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Repo Man's fantastic.
Which movie?
Repo Man.
Repo Man.
I love
that. And then he directed that one where he did the assassination of Robert Kennedy.
The Robert Kennedy movie is very good.
That was good.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. He did a good job of that.
See, I can watch other things other than horror. I watch other.
Let's face it, if Charlie Sheen's your brother, you can always outshine him. It's quite easy to overtake your brother when your brother's Charlie Sheen.
And for the family fuck up, he's a pretty successful family fuck up too.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Right.
I always find it weird that Emilio looks like his dad. Charlie looks like they're like his dad. Those two brothers do not look like each other. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird?
Look like their dad, but they don't look like each other.
Charlie and Emilio.
Yeah.
Emilio looks a lot like Joe Estevez too. That's the other thing that always struck. Like I would have thought Joe. Like I think he looks more like Joe Estevez than he looks like Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
I have to sit there and say that I like to know what happened between Rob Lowe was like a son to Martin Sheen, and something happened during the West Wing, and like, you're no longer my son, sort of thing. Moment came up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why Rob Lowe left. The
West Wing
got fired because of something happened between him and Martin Sheen. Something that was really bad.
No.
If you don't turn Charlie away, and Charlie's really bad, what the hell did Rob do?
But didn't Rob Lowe also have a lot of drug problems?
Rob Lowe, yeah, he got in trouble a little bit back in the day.
He had the teenage girl problem.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Got caught in a hotel.
That was the
camera.
late 80s, though.
Yeah.
But he's had trouble on TV series. He had trouble on Brothers and Sisters as well, didn't he? And he had trouble on...
He was just always too pretty.
The one he's on.
I was going to say the Rob.
I know, but maybe that's being long-term TV series. Maybe he's only good for like a year or two. And he gets bored, maybe.
I liked him in the Stand, though. I liked him better than the other guy in the new Stand.
Are there any stories about him being like a dick?
I want to see a painting of Rob Lowe somewhere. There's got to be a painting somewhere because he looks fucking good for his age. He's 60 something now, and he looks fucking.
Oh God, no kidding. He's always been pretty though. He's just always been just beautiful.
And then
for
you look
human
at
being.
brother, and what happened there? Obviously,
I don't know. He disappeared. He disappeared.
No, you see pictures of Chad. Trust me, Chad doesn't age as well as Rob does. So,
Get Edward Furlong lately?
Who?
Edward Furlong.
Train wreck.
Not looking good.
In the 80s, you had Johnny Depp like cracking egg, and this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that, but Edward did like, this is Edward.
Right.
I remember
this is you on drugs, and just have a picture of Edward Furlong.
A couple of years ago, I had actually asked a filmmaker friend of mine to put me in touch with Edward Furlong for one of my projects, and the response was, "Joe, I love you, but I'm not going to do that for your sake because he's just going to beat you for the money and not show up." And that's basically what I was told.
Huh?
I don't know. He talked me out of approaching Edward Furlong because he was like, "You're just going to pay him. He's going to blow all the money. He's going to get fucked up, and he's not going to show up."
You're better off with Macaulay Culkin because at least he knows when to stop taking the drugs.
Macaulay Culkin has actually done a hell of a job resurrecting himself.
That's what I've seen a little bit of here and there.
That's how he's getting his thing back. So. But yeah, so The Shining, the miniseries. I guess we probably should give our final thoughts because I think that what are your thoughts about it, Matthew?
I agree with pretty much everything Joe said. That it's fine. It's a testament. It's there. It's it is what it is. It's definitely not this life altering.
No, it's not life altering.
That Kubrick's film is, but it is what it is. It's fun. I mean, I enjoyed it when it came out.
Mm.
Like Keith said, it's if you look at it on its own, it's absolutely a good little movie. It's a good movie. When you compare it to Kubrick, okay, yeah, it's gonna pale in comparison. So
yeah, it will.
But as part of like something, like if you were to like as part of a like I treat it now as like, okay, you know what, it's going to be a trilogy. After watching it this week, after finally seeing it, like it's a trilogy now. It's going to be to me the Kubrick Shining, the Garris Shining, and Dr. Sleep as like a whole work together because it made Dr. Sleep make more sense, which that's a fantastic movie also.
I love Dr. Sleep.
So I kind of see it. I kind of see it as that. I'm like, you know what? It's the middle ground that ties up the loose ends.
Yeah, a little bit
from
anyway.
Dr. Sleep. It makes some things more clear there.
Dr. Sleep. My hands go off to Mike Flanagan because that was a hell of a job to do because the book is a sequel to the book, The Shining.
Yeah, and I didn't like the book of Dr. Sleep. I was really disappointed with the book. I was like, what is this not business? Because I'm a Shining fanatic. I'm a Shining freak. And I was like, dude, you wrote a sequel to The Shining? You know what I mean? I was like on it. I read that immediately. And I was just like, oh, man.
I'm with you about the book about that. It meandered around. I didn't know what the hell was going on half the time and I didn't care.
Yeah.
And Danny didn't make much sense. The Danny character doesn't make sense.
No.
Because
it's a little awkward here and there.
Well, he doesn't.
I love the movie. I thought the movie was awesome.
He doesn't give a shit about his mother. He doesn't. He doesn't give a fuck about her. He's glad that she's dead. She's died of cancer. Who gives a fuck about her?
Right.
That's the way he is. That's what you're reading. You're like,
yeah.
Okay, this is not the Danny that loved his mom and his mom.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
His hatred to Halloran is in the book. There's this negativity and this weird thing about Halloran, his thoughts about Halloran, who saved him and his mom's life in the book, and that's kind of weird. And then he's an asshole. He just uses people all the time, and it's just like it's a really nasty. Dr. Sleep, the book, is a really nasty book. It's a really negative, nasty kind of book.
Well, I guess it'd be.
And you're spending your time with
somebody you love.
Your time with Danny.
Yes.
And you're spending a little time with the villains, and the villains are a lot nicer and a lot more interesting than Danny is. The villains are nicer than Danny is in the book. It's just like. So I agree.
And he's Danny. You love him because you're a Shining person. You've been watching this shit for fucking 40 years.
Yeah.
That's what you should do. But the book is like Danny's a horrible fucking person.
He's kind of a terrible person in the beginning of the movie too, because you get that scene with the the woman he takes home, and he takes her money. And,
well, she was on drugs, and that was bad. That was ugly.
It's one of the most disturbing things I've seen is when she shows up. When she shows up, she's like, they still haven't found us. That's dark.
I know, he left him there to die. She takes the baby's money too, that she's probably going to feed the child with. So they both end up dying in a horrible way.
It's awesome, but why do you have to make it Danny? God,
I know.
Something else.
I know.
Another book. It's great. Yeah. It's good
but
stuff.
Maybe in hindsight or retrospect, maybe this shine that he has just drove him a little crazy.
I think that's part of it. I think what we're seeing in that portrayal is a kid who's super traumatized and didn't know how to deal with it.
Well, that's what we get.
Fucked up shit, man. Can you imagine your father chasing you around like that with an axe and
that's gonna fuck your kid up.
Yeah, but
it's gonna leave a mark.
What you gotta think of here is that Mike Flanagan's making the movie of the book The Shining. I mean, the Dr. Sleep. So basically, what you're seeing as far as when they're not going back to the Overlook, what you're seeing is the book. So take out the Overlook sequences out of it, where he had to put in because movie audiences are not very bright. They're not going to remember something 40 years ago. They need to be remembered because this is for the masses. So all that stuff that you're seeing in The Shining that he's interput in there, that's not in the book. Right. Yeah. The movie audiences will sit there and think Kubrick Shining.
Yeah.
You don't have any back when you're reading Dr. Sleep, the book. You don't have this backstory of Danny being traumatized. You just got Danny being an asshole, do you? In the book, Dr. Sleep, I don't remember any.
Well, he's an alky addict himself, I mean,
yeah, but I'm sitting there saying it's kind of a weird thing because when you're reading Dr. Sleep, first of all, it mentions very little about the Overlook. It does mention a bit, but as far as it depends on your memory of The Shining, the book, sort of thing. So I had to go back and reread The Shining, the book, because after writing Dr. Sleep, it's like it's been a while. So then when I reread The Shining, and then still looked at Danny, it still didn't give me. Well, I mean, it doesn't. It shouldn't have been done. I would rather have what happened in Salem's Lot. I'd rather have a sequel to that. Because those vampires are still running around that area.
Well, there's that little tiny sequel, the
Jerusalem's Lot.
Return to Salem's Lot.
Jerusalem's Lot is called One for the Road.
Yeah, I read that sort of thing, and then you had like the person's car stuck, and the
little girl vampire.
But when you're reading Needful Things, and when you're reading even mentioned in the Stand-In, when you're reading Stephen King's books, and they're all set in Castle Rock, there's this ghost town called Jerusalem's Lot that you don't go near because weird things are happening there. And this is after the book Salem's Lot. So all these people in these neighboring towns know about that, but they stay away from there and don't go there at night. So that means those vampires are still they're still operating in this town. When they left, this town's still going. They just don't go there. And so you could actually, So I'm just saying, if you're Stephen King, I want to write a sequel to one of my classics. That would have been you could have had revisit that. What's happening in Salem Plot now? Here we are, 40 years later. 50
That would be. I'd read it.
I would.
I mean, better than Danny Torrance being an asshole and basically abusing everyone he comes across.
Yeah, and then throwing that whole the knot thing in there and all, which I mean, Flanagan handled it pretty well. He did it actually, like the way he did it. I liked it better than the way it was done in the book, because I just think that I was just like, what are you doing? I wanted The Shining. You know,
the movie is better than the book. Dr.
It is in this instance.
And then in the end, I like the stuff that I like the least about the movie, the stuff that I would probably venture to say I don't like about the movie, is when they get to the Overlook, because it just feels tacked on.
It was literally. It literally was.
Yeah, because it literally was.
I loved it because I want to be in the Overlook. I want to hear that music. I want,
that music, man, that just goes through your head. I watched The Shining, the original, twice now. Again.
The other thing I dislike about the movie version of Dr. Sleep is I think they showed too much of Jack Torrance, because I'm like, even if it was only like 2-3 minutes, I'm like, you can't see his face. You need to not see his face, because all I kept thinking that entire sequence was, this is not Jack Nicholson.
Right. Well, I mean, it really does drill into your brain, Shining, Jack Nicholson. I mean, you just can't think of one without the other. You can't.
Did look good.
I mean, another thing is, you got to remember, Dr. Sleep, this is what you have another problem is that they go to the Overlook. The Overlook burned down in the book.
Right.
It burned down.
There is no Overlook.
Yeah, there is no Overlook.
So when Danny, in Dr. Sleep, when Danny goes there, they're going to an empty lot. That's what they're going to, is an empty lot. The Overlook's not there. That's what happens in the book. But of course, in the movie, the original movie, Stanley Kubrick, Overlook stays there. It doesn't get burned down because he freezes to death. So
that's the version.
That's why Flanagan did like a really good job there by trying to mesh these two totally different things together into.
Exactly.
But it was a nostalgia fest too. You got to admit, especially for like a lot of us. It's just like.
But I think that nostalgia stuff was the weakest stuff in it, because I think like everything else.
If it wasn't for nostalgia, I would have hated it.
Yeah.
What's that?
I wouldn't have liked it as much. It was, for me, it was like the music, the angles, the shots. It was a nostalgia thing, because it's silly in a way. If you really, I think like when they rebooted Star Wars with the Force Awakens or whatever and stuff, and you're like,
it wasn't the same, was it?
But if you really think about it, it's kind of shitty, you know what I mean? But man, it was Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was also the first movie again.
It didn't suck. It was you know what I mean? It doesn't suck. This is great.
I have to say though, I did watch Kubrick's The Shining, and then I watched Dr. Sleep right afterwards. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to watch Dr. Sleep because I need to take a day before I go back into the miniseries sort of thing. And the recreation sort of thing, it's they don't work side by side. I found out, because even the coloring of the rug, with Kubrick's coloring of the rug, and then you see the coloring of Dr. Sleep, and especially and the noise palette as well. It's like,
yeah,
it's even all in a different place, and it actually sets the whole thing weirdly. It's kind of bizarre, because if I didn't watch them closely together, I probably wouldn't have noticed. But watching closely together, I realized that Stanley Kubrick was very, very monitored and metered about how everything did. And when they tried to recreate that, they didn't have the same meteredness or the same, the corridor changings or that sort of thing.
I did the opposite as you. I watched Kubrick, then I watched the miniseries, then I watched Dr. Sleep, and I felt like watching the miniseries in between tied everything together better.
Yeah, and I think that's Flanagan, because that's Stephen King. It's basically basing a movie based on the book. That's kind of, then you have to throw the Kubrick film that really has no really relation.
You're also trying to appeal to a new audience too, though.
I think it'd be interesting to do Dr. Sleep based on the Kubrick film and just keep it that way and see how that works out. And then
I'd watch it.
Dr. Sleep to go along with the miniseries and see how they all click together. Sort of thing.
Maybe you'll do a TV show of a remake of the Dr. Sleep that goes with the show.
They are doing there's a new miniseries of The Shining coming out next year, isn't there?
That's 2024.
I wish they had made Salem's Lot a miniseries. Like, I'm like, how can you make this movie about this entire town in a 2-hour movie or even a 3-hour movie?
Well, like Derry?
Well, it's not Derry, it's Salem's Lot.
That kind of suffered a little bit though. That didn't actually live up to expectations, did it?
Is it out?
Castle Rock.
Castle Rock.
Oh, Castle Rock.
Oh, you're talking
that was
about
all right.
Okay, sorry. I was thinking about Castle
No,
Rock.
the Salem's Lot's coming out. It's not out yet, but it's all finished. It's all ready to go.
I saw that. So they
coming out
actually did a remake of Salem's Lot.
Another
finished.
Salem's Lot?
Yes.
I
It's
gotta
all
watch
done.
it
It's ready to
because
come out.
I'm a diehard Salem's Lot whore. I love it.
Me too.
There's just no
Me
way
too.
I wouldn't watch it.
There's a lot that goes on in Salem's Lot.
It better be good. I'll burn down the fucking theater if it's not good.
Yeah, I'll burn it down here in Texas. You burn it down up there.
Is it a movie or a miniseries of Salem's Lot that's coming out?
Probably on an FBI list now.
Is the Salem's Lot a miniseries or?
No, it's not. It's a
movie.
film. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wish they had made it a miniseries because
I don't know how they're going to pack all that in.
Exactly.
I
Probably
really without
Andy
chinsing
Muschietti's-
out.
Andy Muschietti it route by maybe already knowing you're going to do the next or like the new version
Like
of
an
Dune,
like parts.
yeah,
Right.
or Dune. Like Dune
Yeah.
now is doing it also where the
Man, I was
version of
all
Dune-
excited about Dune, and I personally liked it, but man, it's getting hammered on bad.
I thought everyone loved it.
They've done the first third of the book, but nothing happens until the second third of the book.
Yeah,
basically,
exactly.
You just got a movie of build up.
Yeah,
But you know how
Really good.
people
I
are;
liked
they're
it.
impatient.
It was fine.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was beautiful and stuff like this.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a movie full of build up. It's like, it's like someone jacking you off, but you never have the cum shot.
Right? Yeah. There's the one shot. Right.
It's kind of like just kind of build up, and then they stop. They're just teasing you.
What do you mean finish?
That's why I wrote a review of it, and that's exactly what I said. I was like, the worst part of this movie is knowing that you have to wait years to see part 2. Years. You're like,
Yeah, that's a pisser. It's a pisser.
Yeah. I think you can say the same thing as like when they did, the last Harry Potter film and they divided it into 2 parts, or the last Lord of the Rings where they divided it into 2 parts. It's like, and then when the second part comes, because it's been like a year, you watch the second part and it's like, I don't know what the hell's going on. All I see is one fighting.
Yeah.
There's no build up, and you're kind of just walking in the middle of a war. It's like, okay, I'm lost, and it takes you, and then you just feel so. I mean, I like the idea of break. I mean, it works out fine because the thing is, it is in 2 parts anyway. The children's part, the adult part. It's a book in 2 parts anyway.
Right.
The Stand is a book in 2 parts, so you could do this whole build up and do the whole first part. They could actually do a decent movie of that in the first part. The best part of me, The Stand is the disease going, the best amazing people and the way it travels.
Yeah.
Especially since COVID,
Yeah.
fantastic 2-part movie sort of thing. And then
It's
the
a
second
classic
part
opening.
is bolder, and they're building up, and then you have the big explosion. But at least you have great big crescendos that end each part.
Right.
Dune doesn't have a crescendo; it's all build up, and that's what's great. The build up is fantastic, the action's fantastic, but the build up doesn't come until the second.
They killed
movie.
Jason Momoa off in Dune. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, he was like the plot. I was waiting for. They didn't really give him much.
Because The Hobbit in 3 parts, you don't really need to do that.
The Hobbit should have been 1 movie. That was ridiculous.
The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you do get a book that basically has 2 great crescendos. You have the crescendo in the beginning and the crescendo at the end, and then you can divide that by 2. But Frank Herbert does not write that way. It's like Clan of the Cave Bear.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just one great big sweeping saga.
Oh God, that was pain. I liked Clan of the Cave Bear, but it got painful after.
I read those, man. Oh, God,
Oh my God, that was like 30 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the first book is fantastic because she doesn't know who she is. Once she finds out who she is and stuff like this, the next 5 books is just her having sex and mixing herbs to help sick people. That's pretty much it. Sex, herb, sex, herb. That's
Well,
her.
what else was there back to do in prehistoric times?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what was.
Sort of like Quest for Fire. I mean, if I would never wanted to bend over on the set of Quest for Fire.
But as far as with Shining goes, I think Stanley Kubrick's for me is the it's going to be the one.
It is the one. It is the one.
Miniseries. It's great to have a thing that basically the word for word for the book. Everything's pretty much scene for scene, shot for shot, almost of the book, and it's okay to have that, sort of thing. Makes me wonder, but I do feel that the book actually has more of a life of its own in this miniseries, and this miniseries does suffer from that 90s network television has a fault. Now, it'd be interesting that in 2024 we're going to get the new Shining put out by Showtime or HBO.
Right.
And we're going to get and what's going to be great about that is we're going to get something with a deeper, better. It's not going to feel like Friends make a miniseries or ER's doing Stephen King or that 90s gloss. And I think that's what miniseries suffer from. It suffers from that. This suffers from it. I think the reason why the ones in the 70s work because at that time 70s TV shows have this gritty look about them. Salem's Lot has a gritty look about it. Yeah. Kojak, gritty looks. Starsky and Hutch, gritty, and that does that. 80s, everything started going a bit shiny, and then all those miniseries after that became very shiny.
Because everybody was on more drugs.
Well, there was grittiness in the 70s that got washed away in the 80s. 70s, we had Roots in the 80s was very grit. When you look at the film quality and everything is very gritty.
Oh, it's totally different. Totally different.
Jesus of Nazareth even has a gritty kind of.
It did, didn't it? But nobody could make you cry more than Olivia Hussey in that scene when they took him off the cross. I was bawling when I was watching that. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible.
I prefer My Jesus and torture porn and Mel Gibson.
Yeah, no kidding. All that was a Jesus snuff film, man. That really was. I mean, they beat his ass from the beginning of that movie until the end. Just constant human suffering. God, that was awful.
And I think that's what saves the Salem's Lot, because the miniseries of Salem's Lot, the newer one, has that glossy look about it. It doesn't have that film quality and stuff like that.
That's true. It is. You can tell the difference.
It was still good. I really liked it.
I liked it.
The newer one.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I like some of the stuff that they left in it, like the staircase, the basement, and that.
Yeah, because it was so much longer. They were able to do more.
A little more with it.
And they're able to, a lot less censorship going on as well at that time as well.
Right.
The 70s, you got to remember, it's 70s censorship sort of thing as well. And TV, before cable.
You ever see that MTV video of Billy Idol dancing with myself?
Yes.
Toby Hooper directed that.
Hooper. Yeah. Toby Hooper again.
Yeah.
Wasn't that his first one?
Classic.
Steven Spielberg had something to do with it, with the special effects too.
Poltergeist?
Yeah, no, for Billy Idol's first rock video.
Well, that was the time period when Toby and Spielberg were working together, so possibly.
Yeah, it was because they said it was one of Steven Spielberg's first light show kind of things.
Here is Poltergeist, isn't it? In about 82, 83?
82, I want to say.
They were doing their thing.
Yeah, so it's probably around the same time. A lot of directors were doing a lot of music videos at that time anyway, so.
Yeah, John Landis was doing Thriller. And I think
later Gus Van Sant started doing them.
I miss the 80s.
I miss
it
the
was
90s.
fun.
I like the 90s.
A lot of your directors came out of doing. David Fisher came out of doing.
I miss the beginning of the 90s.
Yes, that was the best 90s.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for music videos, you wouldn't have Ridley Scott and David Fisher.
Yeah,
that's the film. Music videos, I think. Okay, final thoughts on the miniseries Shining. Starting with you, Vix.
I like it. I don't love it. But I like the characters, and I like the fact that Rebecca De Mornay's just a little more badass. But I understand what Kubrick was doing with Shelley Duvall, even though he made her sick and her hair fell out. She was filming it, the poor thing. But they're both, I think Stanley Kubrick. I mean, I could probably watch that over and over and find something new that I just, wow, But the series I did like, because it was different. It was closer to the book, but they both have their comings and goings and misgivings, and they're great points. So, I mean, it's really up to the person who's watching. I mean, if you're a fan, you like it or not. But I would watch them both again. Absolutely.
And yourself, Joe?
I think if you compare them, it's kind of unfair because they're two entirely different monsters.
They are
done for different reasons in different ways,
different times,
and different times. I think the miniseries works. I actually like it as a companion piece to the Kubrick film.
That's a good way to.
I like Vicky. I love Rebecca De Mornay being more of a badass, but I could kind of see where Kubrick was going too.
Yeah.
I think Keith mentioned earlier. I think this movie works best if you completely divorce yourself from
Stanley
the Kubrick version. I like them both. I mean, I love the Kubrick version. The Kubrick version just has that overwhelming sense of dread that I don't think this one ever.
That music, the music.
It's the music and just the feel of it. I just don't think this one matched it.
Immediately something's wrong. Immediately
on its own.
There's something about it. It's so creepy.
Yeah, the Kubrick version. Yeah, this one didn't feel as creepy.
No.
But still, as its own thing, I like it. I just think the comparisons to Kubrick are unfair because I mean it's also right. Mick Garris is a very good director. I love a lot of his movies, but he's not Stanley Kubrick, and I don't mean that as like an insult. It's
right.
There's only one Michael Jordan, there's only one Wayne Gretzky.
Exactly.
And Garris is a fucking. I love Sleepwalkers. I love Critters too. I love a lot of his movies. But yeah, when it's comparing anybody to Kubrick, you're gonna fall a little short. I feel like at times, and seeing these as two completely different projects is one way to look at it. Seeing it as a companion instead of a remake or a reboot or anything like that, I think also works.
Those are both good ways of looking at it, though.
Yeah, I think it works either way. But just just don't try to see it as a remake of the Kubrick version because it's not gonna work in that regard.
What about yourself, Matthew?
I gotta say, man, I don't think I cannot stand looking at that kid, dude. I just I think he looks ridiculous. I just think he was miscast. It's just hard to deal with.
He's got an unusual look.
But it's fine. Like it's great.
Pacifier in with a T.
Like Keith and Joe have been saying. Yeah. Yeah, he's ridiculous looking. It looks like Keith and Joe have been saying it stands on its own and it is what it is. And like you were saying, Keith, it's a damn 90s television miniseries.
So you can't escape that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a
compare it to Stanley
miniseries. It is.
But
the only thing it was missing was Jane Seymour.
There was no sex at all in Kubrick's. At least I don't know. It's almost like even in the book there was like I remember one scene where he's like fondling her breast kind of and stuff.
Yeah. Stephen King sex is really bad in him.
He's the worst. Dude, like Salem's Lot has got probably the most awkward, terrible sex scene ever written. Yeah.
And he uses these Stephen King-isms for parts of the female anatomy.
I just can't think of Stephen King in a romantic way anyway. I mean,
that's what he said in The Shining in the book. He's like, he cupped her breast in his hand and felt its heft and weight. He's like, he felt its heft and weight. That's the actual quote. Felt its heft and weight. That always stuck with me because I was like, Steven, what the fuck are you? Like, really?
I mean, he's
that what you think when you hold your wife in your arms?
Well, he's probably just thinking, this was not his wife, so he was probably doing the group grope thing.
Yeah.
And,
every Stephen King book
get the old kilo scale out.
An embarrassing sex scene in it. Stephen King can't write sex scenes. He can't express the female body at all. I mean, he talks about misogyny and all this other stuff in his Twitter account, but reading his way that he describes a woman is very misogynistic. I mean,
absolutely.
It wasn't Brian De Palma.
I don't think he means to.
Your dirty pillows. That's a Stephen King line from the book. I can see your dirty pillows.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a Stephen Kingism. Mm-hmm. But
He must have went to Catholic school in Watertown, New York,
He
too.
probably never got laid in school, so.
He was crazy looking when he was young. He had like the crossed teeth, man. His teeth were all messed up, and he was one eye kind of going off a little bit. You see old pictures of him from college. He was a wild man. Yeah, he got his teeth all fixed when he got money, and
he looked like Ed Kemp. Ed Kemp.
Yes, he did.
He does, dude. He totally does.
If he didn't write,
God, I can't get that picture out of my head now.
Geez. Well, have you ever? Another weird thing as well. Do you know who Fred and Rosemary West are?
Yeah. Fred. Yeah, they're terrible.
Tabitha King looks like Rose West.
Yes, she does. Yes.
Yeah. So we got like Ed Kemp marries Rosemary West, and we got.
God, thanks, Keith. I got that stuck in my head.
No shit, man.
Poor Uncle Steve. You ruined him.
Uncle Steve.
That's what they call him in the horror community. A lot of people.
Fished Carrie out of that paperback. He could have been he could have been one of our greatest serial killers of all time.
I don't ever post an Uncle Steve's anything because you will get your ass ripped apart and eviscerated in those communities.
Oh my God, yeah. When he put out The Outsider, I have my little Facebook author page.
Yeah.
I put up a thing and I was like, come on, dude, it's been 40 years. Can't you give it a break about bagging on Kubrick? And I could see my followers going, dink, 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 dink. And I fucking ran over and fucking erased it, took it down. I was like, holy shit, I just lost like 10 followers in 10 minutes because of that fucking post.
Gotta be careful.
Yeah.
People do not have a sense of humor anymore.
All you gotta do is like post a picture of him on Facebook and you will get like guarantee 100 likes.
No.
Not the one I sent Keith.
I would just put pictures just get a picture and like him up and go, this is my friend Steven. Superimpose him with Rosemary West.
Oh my God.
We're probably going to start losing slowly.
Steven and Tabitha at the ball.
Oh man.
So
he's one of the most awful humans that's ever existed, man. Rosemary.
I mean, next week we'll be having a special interview with Stephen King. Not.
And on the other line, we have Rosemary West.
Star-crossed lovers.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Found in Verona. Now, for me, I think it's very important that when we talk about The Shining, that basically I think they need to be retitled. I think we got Kubrick's Shining, and then we have Stephen King's The Shining, which is the miniseries. And I think that pretty much sums it up. When they put Stephen King's The Shining on the miniseries, that says it right there.
But it's not a remake, like Joe said. It's not.
It is a remake for the simple fact that basically they're both based on the same source material. This is one person's way of doing the source material, and this is another person's way of doing the source material. But it is a remake. It's just
there was a writing exercise that we had at the School of Visual Arts back in the early 2000s, where one of our screenwriting professors said I could give every single one of you the basic idea that I want you to make your next film about, and I guarantee you, when you guys come in 2 weeks or however long it was, you're going to see 25 completely different movies, and that's basically that's what this is.
You went to School of Visual Arts, man? I went there too. I didn't graduate.
I went there as a non-matriculated student. So cool. I was never in any of the day classes or anything like that. I went as a night student.
Yeah, I went there back in 1990.
Oh, that was 2002. So about 10 or 12 years after you.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, as far as the miniseries of The Shining, for me, I think that Mick Garris does a fantastic job being able to do a miniseries. Have to work with network television with what we have there with commercial breaks and everything like that. And you have to make sure that they are coming in every 10, 15 minutes and doing that and being able to do that. And also having Stephen King, the writer of the screenplay, the writer of the book, and basically being very open about his dissatisfaction with the Kubrick's Shining for whatever reasons. And then having him as the producer over your shoulder the whole time while you're making this film, I think they did a pretty good job keeping faithful to the book.
Yeah, Mick Garris had a lot on his plate on this, and you could tell.
And I think he pulls it off. I mean, I mean, I'd be interested to see Mick Garris do The Shining for Netflix or Showtime or HBO and see how that would come out. Sort of thing. But I think for the restrictions of network television, I think fair chance. And as I said before, for me, it's quite nice to have a faithful adaptation of the novel because it's there for prosperity, and it stops you. I can spend 5 hours reading this, or spend 15 hours reading the book. So, okay.
And I bought the DVD. No, I feel like it.
Next week, we'll be discussing in our 80s Necromantic, which will basically be dealing with sexes and corpses, and basically what we do with our disjointed twin when they become separated for us in the movie Basket Case.
A little podcast porn.
And of course, the week after that, we'll be doing Dark Shadows. And of course, our next book to screen will be Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, and the famous film starring Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And our next remakes will be The Fly from 1958 and The Fly from 1986.
And I'll be back for that one
next month. So that's good night for myself, and good night, Vicky.
Night, guys.
Good night, Matthew.
Buenas noches.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
And we'll see you next week for our Strange Relationships Month, while we deal with sex with corpses and disjointed.
When you left the doors, you paused in the doorway. So I thought stole you away. I want to go pull you away. So I run into the hall, into the corridor. There's a door in the house. I hear the lift descending. I hear it hit the landing. See the house and the cat standing with my key eye, with my key eye, with my key eye, with my key eye. Won't let you in, full of no money. My home, my joy, I'm married and bolted and no strangers feet will enter me. I wash the plates, I clean the stairs. This house is old and this house knows all I have done. They come with a hanging around them. The kind of mind they down with my key eye, with my key eye. This house is full of madness. This house is full of mistakes. This house is full of madness. This house is full of with my keeper eye, with my keeper eye, with my keeper eye, with my keeper eye. Won't let you in for love, no money. My home, my joy, I'm married and bolted and died. Strangers feet will enter me. I wash the plates, I clean the stairs.